Referee Craig Pawson is leading the players out and picks up the match ball at St James's Park. They're coming out of that narrow, tight, compact tunnel to raucous applause. So much hope at the start of a Premier League season for both of these sets of fans. The Southampton fans have travelled a good 350 miles up the motorway to St James's Park, hoping that this is a successful season for them. It all starts here for both Newcastle and Southampton, the first of 38 games in this punishing Premier League schedule. Sit back and enjoy in the company of Mickey Gray and Ian Danter.
Thank you, Faye, and a very good afternoon to you from Tyneside, wherever and however you're listening to Talksport 2. As once again we bring you exclusive Premier League commentaries each and every Saturday at 3 p.m. And as I look to my right to the Gallagher end, there are massive tifos being flown for Newcastle United, a massive flag of the shirts of Anthony Gordon, Joe Linton, Alexander Isak and Bruno Guimaraes, staring at the three major trophies available to Premier League clubs this season. The Premier League itself, the FA Cup and the Carling Cup, and below it a slogan that says, "We still have wild dreams." No doubting the passion and desire of these Newcastle United fans to finally get a major trophy in the cabinet after such a long time without. What are the prospects for that this year? Well, with this raucous, intoxicating atmosphere, they begin a campaign, Newcastle, hoping that the slightly less packed fixture calendar this time around will help them back up towards the top four where they finished 2 seasons ago. It was 7th for the Magpies in the end back in May. The Champions League commitments, coupled with a crippling injury list, stunted their progress somewhat under Eddie Howe. Now into his 3rd full season at Newcastle United as manager. Southampton, who arrive here having returned to the top flight at the first time of asking, winning the playoff final against Leeds. Saints fans know just how wretched their last season was at this level. 3 managers, no improvement with each change, and finishing rock bottom. But Russell Martin has guided the Saints back to the big time, now to see if his passing philosophies can work against the elite week in, week out. Eddie Howe has won both of his Premier League openers with Newcastle and bids for 3 in a row with this starting 11. Nick Pope, back fully fit, is the #1 choice as goalkeeper. Tino Livramento, Fabian Schär, Dan Burn and Lewis Hall is the back 4. Still a number of players in defence unable to be called upon, such as Sven Botman and Jamal Lascelles, and Kieran Trippier benched this afternoon. Sean Longstaff, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton at 3 in midfield. Jacob Murphy, Alexander Isak and Anthony Gordon up front. For Southampton, they make a couple of debuts this afternoon from the start. Ben Brereton Diaz and Yukinari Sugawara are given their first competitive starts for the Saints. In this lineup, Alex McCarthy in goal. 3 centre-halves, Taylor Harwood-Bellis, Jan Bednarek, Jack Stevens. Yukinari Sugawara and Kyle Walker-Peters right and left. Will Smallbone, Flynn Downs, Joe Aribo in central midfield, and Ben Brereton Diaz along with former Newcastle Academy product Adam Armstrong in attack. Referee today, Craig Pawson, and friend of the Geordie Nation, Mickey Gray, is alongside me for what should be the start of another wild ride for Newcastle fans here at St James's Park. Right, Mickey?
So good to be back, Danter, isn't it? To have the Premier League back, it's absolutely incredible. Southampton get the opportunity again to mix it with the big boys, but no more difficult place to come to St James's Park for your first game in the new season. What a game we've got in hand here.
And Southampton, having won the toss, have turned Newcastle around. They're going to make them play towards the Gallagher end in the first half. Newcastle in their traditional black and white stripes, black shorts and socks. The Gallagher end to our right, the Lees' end to our left, and way up in the top tier of that Lees' end are the Southampton fans who've made the long trip up from the south coast. Southampton in their change strip of fluorescent yellow shirts and socks with black shorts, and Southampton will be kicking towards their fans in that Lees' end to our left in the first half. We're sat quite literally 6 rows behind the dugouts here at St James's Park in the Milburn stand, and Southampton are already trying to play the ball around in their own defensive third and giving it up quite cheaply, but Newcastle only make something of it for a moment. Guimaraes flicks the ball into the area looking for Isak. It's hooked away by Stevens. Aribo tries to chest it down, but Livramento shovels it wide for Jacob Murphy on this near side of the Newcastle right. Inside the first minute on Talksport 2, Livramento tries to slide it back down the right hand side for Murphy, throwing Newcastle. But Southampton, well, their passing style at the back clearly evident already, Mickey Gray.
Well, I think we all knew, Dance, didn't we, that they weren't going to change, and they are going to get caught out at times.
Livramento, ball into the box, it's stabbed clear by Taylor Harwood-Bellis, and then Ben Brereton Diaz is just clipped by Fabian Schär, and it's a free kick to Southampton in their own defensive third. Early goal in the 3 o'clocks in League 2. Crewe 0, Chesterfield 1. James Berry for Chesterfield, getting them in front at the Alexander Stadium. Earlier today, you heard it on Talksport, Liverpool and Arne Slot got off to the ideal start at newly promoted Ipswich, winning 2-0 at Portman Road. Let's see how this newly promoted side gets on today. The other promoted side, Leicester, are on the Monday night game night on Talksport as they take on Tottenham Hotspur. Here is Jan Bednarek, who had a decent Euros with Poland. Floats the ball across to Sugawara, but the ball goes off the underside of his boot and out for a throw. But there's 2 balls on the pitch, so even though Anthony Gordon is sort of jinking in field, he's got to give the ball back for the throw to be taken again by Lewis Hall. 0-0, couple of minutes gone, Mickey.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting the way that this game starts to pan out, Dance, because I think the way that Southampton are going to do it is when they get the opportunity to play it around at the back, it's going to be that slow build-up. When they get into that final third, that's when they've got to spring to life. But with Newcastle having this high press, the quality of the passing coming out from the back and also from the goalkeeper, McCarthy, has to be spot on.
Here is Bruno Guimaraes trying to slide the ball down the left-hand side of the area for Gordon, but it's overhit, and Alex McCarthy, who's bedecked in fluorescent orange this afternoon, picks up the ball. No Gavin Bazunu in the Southampton goal for a little while yet. Bad injury means he's going to be out for the foreseeable, so McCarthy keeps the gloves. Joe Lumley is the sub-keeper today. I'll run you through the benches in a minute. Meanwhile, Murphy's worked the ball back to the other keeper, Nick Pope, who, under pressure from Adam Armstrong, clears the ball out to the left-hand side of the box, and Dan Burn prevents a corner. I think Pope only saw Adam Armstrong coming in at him right at the last second, Mickey Gray.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's certainly something that you work on when you play against Newcastle, because, in all truth, he's not great with his feet, Nick Pope, is he? And it's always been a concern.
Livramento plays the ball down the right-hand side of the box, looking for Murphy. Again, that's overhit, this time down the Newcastle right. And it's a goal kick to Southampton. Bristol City 1, Millwall 0. Anis Mehmeti puts the Robins ahead. Good start to the season for Liam Manning and Bristol City, and Forest Green lead Boston United in the conference, and Aldershot 1-0 up at Halifax. Those are the goals we have so far. Another free kick as Flynn Downs is brought down just ahead of his own penalty area. So Southampton turn Newcastle around at the start of this first home game of the season for Newcastle United. They've lost just one of their last 20 matches against newly promoted sides, and that one defeat came last season against Luton Town. So the record against the New Boys is pretty good. Eddie Howe, though, frustrated with the press that Newcastle are trying to put on Southampton at the moment, as Downs whacks it up to the halfway line. It's well controlled by Armstrong, who's up against Dan Burn. Not much support. Now Smallbone comes to join him in midfield, just over the halfway line here for Southampton, and Armstrong then slows the game down and tucks it back into the centre circle for Jack Stevens. 0-0. Well,
albeit Southampton have given the ball away a couple of times at the back, Harwood-Bellis being one of those players and Stevens the other. They've played some really nice football from back to front. When they do get it up to Adam Armstrong, he holds the ball up really well, and this is where they've got to come to life in the final third.
Brereton Diaz, left wing for Southampton, cuts the ball in field to Kyle Walker-Peters, playing in this left wing back role for the moment for Russell Martin and Southampton. It's worked back to Harwood-Bellis, now wearing the number 6. Now he's a permanent signing for Southampton. Sugawara, early cross from the right-hand side. Strong header clear from Schär, bounces over Sugawara's head. Can Gordon keep it in play? He can, but by hooking it infield, he presents possession back to Southampton. And remember, Southampton have the best average possession of any team in the Championship last year, they averaged 2/3 of possession across the season.
It was incredible, Dance. When I was looking at it, 66.1% is phenomenal, really, and I didn't think they'd get away with it in the Premier League, but they are so far.
Smallbone finds Armstrong, midway point in the Newcastle half, goes down under pressure from Bruno Guimaraes, no foul, and they're trying to win it back. Flynn Downs trying to put his foot in, but Dan Burn just clatters it up to halfway. There's a collision between Harwood-Bellis and Gordon, bang on halfway. Gordon has stayed down. Referee Craig Pawson did not see that as a foul, but he's just checking on the condition of the England star. 0-0.
Well, I have to say, Dan, I thought both players slipped. Anthony Gordon's done very well. He's kind of came short and then tried to drop his shoulder, but both players slipped, and Harwood-Bellis can't really get out the way of Anthony Gordon. It's a great run and a nice move. But I have to say, the front three in Newcastle need to just sharpen up a little bit. It does take time to get into the game. I know Isak's not really touched the ball as of yet. They need him to spring into life.
Well, he's just forced Harwood-Bellis into giving away a throw. Mansfield 1, Burton 0 in League 1. In fact, it's 1-1 now. Billy Bowden's just equalised for Burton. Sheffield United League QPR at Bramall Lane. Gus Harmer, still a Sheffield United player. Will he still be there come the end of the window? We'll have to wait and see. But it's 1-0 to the Blades. And Reading 1, Wigan 0 in League 1. Charlie Savage, son of Robbie, scores for the Royals at the Select Car Leasing. Free kick to Newcastle United at 0-0. 7 minutes gone on Talksport 2 on Game Day exclusive. It's out on the left-hand side, only just in from the touchline, almost at the midway point of the Southampton half, and the Saints are holding their line at the edge of the D, a good 20 or so yards out from goal, trying to keep the space between them and their goalkeeper. It's whipped in from the left-hand side by Lewis Hall, touched out to the back out to that left-hand side by Downs, picked up by Gordon, left-hand corner of the box, but he showed too much of that to Armstrong, and now Brereton Diaz leads a counter-attack for Southampton. He's got Jacob Murphy backpedaling, he's got players moving up to his left and right, but he just got halted in his tracks, and Joe Linton, backtracking, won the ball back for Newcastle United, and Guimaraes then is dispossessed by a great sliding challenge by Aribo. Downs slides it out to the right wing. Sugawara, good run from the Japanese, gets the wrong side of Hall, who brings him down right at the edge of the area. It's going to be a yellow card for Lewis Hall and a free kick down the right-hand side of the box for Southampton away to our left. 0-0.
Well, what a move. It was fantastic. Brereton Diaz initially, when he picked up that ball, he was looking to his left and right, had no support, and he was trying to hang on to that ball. Newcastle eventually win the ball back, but when it works its way back over to that right-hand side, Sugawara, he can see Anthony Gordon doesn't really want to get back into that defensive position. As he pulls on his shoulder, it's the far end of the pitch from us, Dan, but I was wondering whether he's in the penalty area, but Sugawara didn't really appeal for it. They have won this free kick. It's been a bright start from Southampton, I have to say.
And Will Smallbone is very carefully placing the ball down on the turf, down that right-hand side of the penalty area. It's about 6 yards from the dead ball line. Plenty of players in and around the 6-yard box in both black and white and fluorescent yellow. Smallbone holds up his left arm, now delivers the cross, dinks it to the near post, it's headed out to the edge of the box. Sugawara heads it back into the danger area, volleyed clear by Joe Linton. Smallbone brings it down expertly with his head, flicks it down the right-hand side of the box. Aribo in space, gets the cross along the deck, Smallbone, and it's tucked in, but the offside flag goes up against Jack Stevens. I think he knew he was in an offside position when he put that into the back of the net, but Southampton caused problems, and Newcastle looked all at sea at the back for a moment, but the offside flag spares them. 0-0.
Oh, well, I just have to say, does Stevens have to touch the ball, Dance? Because Smallbone does absolutely brilliant. Aribo picks him out and he just tries to side foot. I don't know if it's a shot come cross, but it looks like it maybe could have creeped into that near post. Jack Stevens' head looking up at the clouds in front of us at St James's Park. What a big opportunity for the away side.
But it stays 0-0. We've edged towards the 10-minute mark on Talksport 2. Burnley in the Championship, already a goal up on Cardiff at Turf Moor. An own goal by Ethan Horvath has given the Clarets the lead. Good start to the season for Scott Parker. And Crewe 0, Chesterfield 2 now in League 2. League 1, should I say. Will Grigg gets Chesterfield 2-0 up against Crewe in League Two. Good start to the season for Paul Cook. Saw them on Tuesday at Derby County in the EFL Cup. I thought they looked quite decent, the Spyrites. Should have a good season back in the EFL. Here's Anthony Gordon right at the other end of the league pyramid. Here in the Premier League, exclusive on Talksport 2. 0-0 between Newcastle and Southampton. Gordon goes for a 1-2 and tries to get the cross in, but Sugawara puts it out for a corner at the Gallowgate end, and Joe Linton whipping up the fans behind that goal to increase the atmosphere. 0-0.
Well, he certainly is, Joe Linton. He's had a really good start to the game, more so defensively, but this time a little give and go with Anthony Gordon down that left-hand side. You're right, getting the fans involved in the game. They need to show them something.
So a corner where the Gallowgate meets the east stand, over on the far side of the field from us. Anthony Gordon's going to take it, a right-footed in-swinger to come for Newcastle United. Clips it right into the crossbar, and that's a comfortable catch for Alex McCarthy. 0-0.
Well, also from Newcastle perspective, Danter, I don't know if we've seen it in the game, but Lewis Hall and Livramento, they have to start getting over that halfway line and making more bodies in the final third for Newcastle, because that's a problem. They're sitting back and they're trying to play through midfield, but they haven't got that outlet that they've been looking for, and this is why Southampton in the early stages of the game have had a little bit of joy.
Here is Jacob Murphy trying to slide the ball through to Alexander Isak, right-hand corner of the area. Just turns away from Walker Peters, slides it back to the edge of the D. Guimaraes out to the left-hand side of the box. Vital challenge from Sugawara to get a boot on it to prevent Joe Linton skipping clear down the left-hand side of the box, and it came off Joe Linton last of all. So throw to Southampton. Bristol City double their lead against Millwall in the Championship. Former QPR youngster Sinclair Armstrong, is that his first goal for his new club? They are 2-0 up at Ashton Gate. Barnsley lead by a goal to nil at Lincoln's Sam Cosgrove. And Chesterfield now 3-0 up in League Two at Crewe. James Berry with his second of the afternoon after Will Grigg had put them 2-0 up. Southampton taking their time over this throw. 12 minutes gone on Talksport 2 if you're just tuning in. Newcastle 0, Southampton 0. Aribo inside his own half for the Saints. Plays it back to Stevens, who immediately looks for Walker Peters. Ben Brereton Diaz on his bite down the left-hand side, but Walker Peters tried to carry the ball towards him. Gets the benefit of a ricochet. Moves infield. Carl Walker Peters lays it off to Flynn Downs, once of Ipswich Town. Had a spell at West Ham as well, Flynn Downs, but wearing the number 4 that James Ward-Prowse used to wear at Southampton. Here is Harwood Bellis into Flynn Downs, gives it back to Harwood Bellis, tucks it back into his own half for Bednarek. Stevens again, good neat passing from Southampton, slide rule pass, finds Will Smallbone, gets to the edge of the area, tried his luck and it ricocheted away, and Pope will stop the ball snaking out of play for a corner kick, but it opened up for Will Smallbone there. 0-0.
Well, you have to be concerned, Dance, with Newcastle, and I don't think that they're too sure about this back line that they've got, or they've had to put together, if you like. Hall, Livramento and the two centre halves, they look really nervy.
But they're coming forward now down the right-hand side. Oh, Livramento just couldn't get to it because of a fantastic sliding challenge. Full stretch Joe Aribo to put it out of play. Newcastle throw, 0-0.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant from Joe Aribo. You want to see the quality that he's got in the final third. Already set up Smallbone for a big opportunity, but helping out defensively as well. He saw the threat from Newcastle on the break, got himself back into a really good position. Super challenge.
Poor throw-in from Livramento, and Harwood Bellis helps to win it back. Walker Peters knocks back infield to Flynn Downs. Aribo will go back to Bednarek inside his own area, gives it to Alex McCarthy, and they're trying this short passing in and around their own 18-yard line, asking Newcastle, come on, try and take it off us, and they slide it up to Aribo midway point of the half. He turns it neatly around the corner to Stevens. That's nicely done from Southampton.
Well, the trust in either player, Dance, when they're playing that ball into them,
and then Sugawara gives it away down the left-hand side comes Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall slides it into the area, but it hits the first defender, Harwood Bellis, and Southampton can bring it clear. It's 0-0 here. You're listening to Newcastle Southampton on Talksport 2 with Sky Sports. Don't forget, you can stream more Sky Sports football than ever before, available with no contract on now, like West Ham against Aston Villa. Live later today, just search Now Sports. Sheffield United 2-0 up on Crewe in the Championship. Kiefer Moore, great acquisition.
Yeah,
for Chris Wilder. Makes it 2-0 for the Blades. I quite like the look of that midfield with Gus Harmer and Callum O'Hare they got from Coventry and Kiefer Moore up top, and now they're back in positive points territory. Started with -2.
Yeah, that's right.
Already in positive territory, so it's all good. So far, Southampton have had nearly, would you believe it, 2/3 of possession, mirroring what they've been doing all last season in the Championship, but it is still 0-0. And again, they're playing the ball out of a very tight area, down by the corner flag in their own defensive third, right-hand side, and they've worked it out to the left-hand side, right in front of our commentary position. Ben Brereton Diaz on halfway. Here's Flynn Downs in the centre circle receiving the ball. Flicks it to his right for Taylor Harwood-Bellis. Newcastle got everybody inside their own half now, including Isak. Downs turns it out to the right wing and Sugawara. Early ball looking for Adam Armstrong, but that's a comfortable header clear from the giant Dan Burn. And then Guimaraes was caught by Smallbone, and that's a free kick to Newcastle United inside their own half. 16 minutes gone on Talksport 2, it's goalless.
Well, Dan, you mentioned those stats possession-wise, and it's been absolutely fantastic from Southampton's perspective. Yes, they take a risk at times, but they've got full confidence in each other, the way that they play, lovely the way they do it coming out from the back. And what's clever is when they're out of possession, it becomes a flat back five, and it makes it really hard for Newcastle then to get in behind them. But when they do win that ball back, you can see the two wing backs, Sugawara on that right-hand side and Walker-Peters over on this left-hand side. They just look to try and get over the halfway line, just to make up numbers to help out those forward players. Really clever play.
That's former England defender Mickey Gray with us on Talksport 2 this afternoon. I look on us, Alexander Isak collects the ball down the right wing for Newcastle. Cross is deflected and actually ricochets into the path of Aribo, and suddenly it's 3-on-3 for Southampton as Aribo motors into the half, slides it down the left-hand side of the box for Brereton Diaz, across the face of goal, and Hall turns it behind for a corner, knowing that Adam Armstrong was right behind him. Corner kick to the Saints from a swift counter-attack.
And you talk about Newcastle giving the ball away. Isak on the break gives a sloppy pass away, and what happens? Aribo picks the ball up. He knows he's got willing runners in front of him with Brereton Diaz. He will never stop. It's just the way he plays, and Adam Armstrong just drifted towards that far post, and Hall had to be in the right place at the right time to clear his lines.
In the end, it was given as an offside against Brereton Diaz as the ball was slid through to him, so it's a free kick to Newcastle. Mickey's going to be back in his natural habitat of the Stadium of Light tomorrow lunchtime for our first commentary of the day. Sunderland against Sheffield Wednesday at high noon.
Yeah, looking forward to that one, Dan. Sheffield Wednesday look a real deal this season.
Be a good game that. We'll be alongside Adam Bridge on Wearside. Here's Isak inside the area for Newcastle, trying a drive, and Bednarek got his foot in and turned it behind it. It's not a corner though, because the offside flag has now gone up against the Swede Alexander Isak, and instead it's a free kick to Southampton here on Talksport. Just a reminder, it's not just Sunderland against Sheffield Wednesday tomorrow. We also bring you straight after that Bolton Wanderers against Wrexham at 3 o'clock on League One. And then after that, as with today, we then go straight to Ellen Road, because today and tomorrow from 5 p.m. we're bringing you two matches from the Super League Magic Weekend, which would normally be here at St James's Park, but they're a bit busy today. So instead, Ellen Road is the host for all 12 Super League teams to play over the weekend. And Wigan, St Helens and Warrington against Leeds you'll hear tonight on Talksport 2 from 5 p.m. with Craig Murdoch, Paul Cook and Mark Wilson, your team, guiding you through those commentaries. Meanwhile, Jason Cundy is the new co-host of the Game Day phone-in alongside Jamie O'Hara. That's live on Talksport at 5:30. 19.5 minutes gone on Talksport 2. Goalless at St James's Park. Walker-Peters being held, not just the shirt, but his arm was being held as he tried to get away from Jacob Murphy. They take the free kick quickly, Southampton. Downs, just over the halfway line. Takes the game down to walking pace. Flicks it to his left for Jack Stevens. And they're just playing a bit of keep ball between each other. 2-yard passes, even I can do that.
Well, I think a few of these Newcastle players are a little bit shell-shocked, Dancer, I have to say. The style that Southampton are playing, I thought Newcastle with a high press would have been able to get at them with the quality that they've got. But they look really sharp, Southampton, I have to say, and they're just playing the game at their own pace. They're dictating what they want to do, and when they spring into gear, they've looked the livelier of the two sides.
Well, Russell Martin has been a real jack in the box since the first whistle. Really exhorting his team. Eddie Howe also at the edge of his technical area, but more of a watching brief from the Newcastle manager. As Sugawara for Southampton gets down the right-hand side, slips it in field to Downs, but he's got his back to play. Has to work it back to Harwood-Bellis under pressure. Downs gets it back. And neat little triangles of passing keep Southampton in possession and keeping that percentage very much in their favour for possession. Blackburn lead at Norwich. Ryan Hedges with a goal for Mickey Gray's old club at Carrow Road, just to intensify the early pressure on Turrup, the new Norwich manager. Out to the right-hand side it goes, and Southampton coming forward again with Sugawara. Hits it against Lewis Hall. Prevents the throw, but Aribo first on the scene to tow it away from Anthony Gordon. You can just hear around us, Mickey Gray, the sort of slight discombobulation of the Newcastle United fans, not really understanding what they're seeing at this point, even though it is only 0-0.
Murmurs of frustration, isn't it, Dance? Because they've come to St James's Park today to think they're going to get off.
Armstrong's going to go for goal from 30 yards, and it's well over the top. Don't think Russell Martin's too pleased with that effort, judging by the words he mouthed as he walked back towards his technical area. Armstrong's not, well, 2 Premier League campaigns, 4 goals across those 2 campaigns, Mickey, but in the Championship last year, Adam Armstrong was fantastic, 24 goals.
Yeah, and he's a little poacher, isn't he? I know he's a lot more than that, Adam, because you give them the ball outside of the 18-yard box. He can easily skip past players and he can certainly finish, but he needs to prove it on a weekly basis in a Southampton shirt. Look, there's nothing wrong with the way that the away side have set themselves up, Dance, but the problem they're going to have throughout the season is, have they got enough goals?
Newcastle United 0, Southampton 0, on Talksport 2, game day exclusive. We're also at the midway point of this first half. Mickey Gray and Ian Danter with you as the ball's tucked in field very neatly by Kyle Walker-Peters. Plays a 1-2 with Bednarek. A little bit of twinkle toes from Walker-Peters. Eventually draws the challenge from Jacob Murphy, and it's a throw right in front of the Southampton dugout, taken quickly by Walker-Peters, who looks very adept in this somewhat unfamiliar left wing-back role he's being asked to play.
He does, and I was really looking forward to watching Jacob Murphy. I thought him and Trippier last season, when they played as a partnership on this right-hand side, were absolutely outstanding, but Murphy can't get into the game. He's just tracking back and keeps fouling Walker-Peters, and you want to see him in that final third showing the quality that he's got, but he's just not being given the opportunity to do so.
Now the boot's on the other foot because Murphy's just been fouled by Walker-Peters. It's currently Newcastle 0, Southampton 0. For all the latest odds, head to William Hill, the official betting partner of Talksport 2's Premier League coverage, where right now you can get Newcastle to win at 2-1 on, Southampton 9-2, and the draw 7-2. That's all thanks to William Hill, 18+, begambleaware.org. Wycombe 1, Birmingham City 0. Christian Bielik with an own goal. Welcome to League One. Mickey Gray can tell me all about that after 4 years Sunderland spent in there.
Absolutely.
Here's the free kick from Bruno Guimaraes, headed out to the edge of the area, drops for Gordon, clips it down the left-hand side of the box. An attempted cross from Guimaraes, deflects behind for a corner kick to Newcastle United at the Gallagher. Nottingham Forest lead Bournemouth by 1-0. Chris Wood gets his first of the season for the Tricky Trees at the City Ground. Corner here to Newcastle at the Gallagher end. And it will be another right-footed in-swinger from Anthony Gordon. Players packed around the edge of the 6-yard box from both sides. Whipped in again right under the crossbar. Punched strongly clear by McCarthy. Drops for Jacob Murphy, right-hand side, near the corner of the penalty area. Fabian Scher out there with him. Gives it in field to Bruno Guimaraes. Slides it down the right side of the box. Longstaff tries to hit the crossing. Headed down by Brereton Diaz and hooked away from danger by Jack Stevens. Back with Newcastle and Tino Livramento, once of Southampton. Finds Murphy. Little turn from Longstaff as he got into the area right-hand side. Didn't really know where he was, and by the time he was fully in possession, Southampton had players on him. It's rolled back to Guimaraes. Now back to Scher. A few murmurings of discontent because the ball's not gone in the box. Now it does from Guimaraes, and that's a comfortable claim from Alex McCarthy. 0-0 it stays. Volley clear by the Southampton keeper.
Well, off they go again, Southampton. When they get the opportunity to get it forward quickly, they do so. And a couple of things there as well, Dan. Alex McCarthy's been fantastic in that Southampton goal so far. 2 corners that have come into the area. He's plucked one out of the sky and he's got there. in front of his marker and cleared his lines just to take a bit of pressure off his back line. But you can see Newcastle's build-up play is just a little bit too slow at the moment. He's given Southampton the opportunity to get everybody behind the ball, which makes it much more difficult to break them down.
0-0 here. Arsenal lead against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Kai Havertz opens his account at the Emirates Stadium, and Brighton lead Everton. Karo Mitoma, the Japanese international who missed so much football last year with serious injury, back in the side and back on the score sheet. Everton 0, Brighton 1, and in League One Huddersfield 1-0 up on Stevenage as Sugawara, another Japanese player, tries to get down the Southampton right, looked to be onside, but the ball was way overhit, so he couldn't profit from it. And then there's a foul on Guimaraes on halfway. Free kick taken too quickly for the referee's liking, and so Newcastle get a second chance to restart play. 0-0 the score. It was Christian Bielik with an own goal that put Wickham ahead at Advents Park against my lot. Would be an own goal, wouldn't it? Typical.
Never mind, there's plenty of time, Dan, don't worry.
Yeah, I'm allowed to be pessimistic.
But while this game's going on, listen to this, Dan. They're frustrated because...
now there's a bit of a pushing and shoving on. Ben Brereton Diaz has gone down, claiming he was headbutted in the face by Fabian Schär. Brereton Diaz has gone to ground. Schär protesting his innocence. Craig Pawson is now on the scene. Jason Tindall speaking to the fourth official. There's a lot of conflag going on between Russell Martin and Jason Tindall, and Eddie Howe also now getting involved, and the fourth official, Dean Whitestone, calming things down. And a red card has been issued, has it, to Fabian Schär. Yellow card for Brereton Diaz. But a real flashpoint here at St James's Park, and Fabian Schär may have to rely on VAR to get him out of any trouble here, but it seems he's been sent off.
Yes, you've got it right, Dance. And as the two players come together, look, the frustration was boiling over because Newcastle have not started this game well. They thought they'd won a free kick. It went to Southampton. They got on with play. Brereton Diaz runs in behind Fabian Schär. There's contact. He goes to ground. Fabian Schär then gets up from the ground. He comes together with Brereton Diaz. I don't know if there's movement from him towards Brereton Diaz or more the striker going towards the centre half. I don't know. This might need looking at because I don't know. Look, there's contact, Dance, and I think if the referee Craig Pawson has a look, he's going to see that Schär puts his head into Brereton Diaz. I don't think he's going to rescind this red card, I have to say, but I think this boils down to the way that Newcastle have started this game. In the first 28 minutes, they've been really poor.
Well, Schär's now very slowly making his way towards us and down the tunnel. It was definitely a yellow card for the initial challenge from Brereton Diaz, because he essentially shoved Schär in the back as he received the ball, as he was getting it back to his keeper Pope. And you can hear the boos around us here at St James's Park, and Schär is protesting his innocence now to the fourth official, Dean Whitestone. And the decision has been upheld by VAR, so Chris Kavanagh's had a look at Stockley Park and has decided that it is not a clear and obvious error to have sent off Fabian Schär for that incident of violent conduct. He basically walked in to Ben Brereton Diaz. There was no motion of the head forward from a traditional headbutt as you would imagine it. Incidentally, there's a change being made by Newcastle United in the wake of this red card. They're going to have to take off an attacking player, and Jacob Murphy's being sacrificed to allow the Swede Emil Kraft to come on in his place. Nothing against what Jacob Murphy's been doing out there, but they just need 4 defenders out there, Newcastle. But that was not a headbutt in the traditional sense. How much did Ben Brereton Diaz make of that challenge in order to draw the red card from the official? That's the question.
Well, Dan, first and foremost, if you're a centre-half, don't get involved. Fabian Schär has stood his ground and Brereton Diaz has stood his ground, and they've walked together. You're right, there's no leverage of the neck or the head towards Brereton Diaz. But
here comes the free kick downfield, almost got through to Isak. But remember, we've now got an hour to play. It's half an hour gone. Newcastle 0, Southampton 0, but Newcastle are down to 10 men. VAR did not reprieve Fabian Schär as he might have hoped. And the Geordies are down a man. And you can hear what the locals make of that. And next time Ben Brereton Diaz receives the ball, I reckon those boos will intensify. He's going to get it now. There you go. Goes over about 10 decibels.
My goodness, well, he's going to have to get used to it. But I think Newcastle are going to have to get used to not having the ball. They never really had it in the first half an hour of this game. And it's going to be more difficult down to 10 men. They've made that change, and I think it's just about hanging on to half-time so Eddie Howe can readdress the situation and maybe say to his players, listen, you need to book up your ideas a little bit because we've not got started in the game. Listen to that.
Well, that's Longstaff going in on Brereton Diaz and winning a throw, or putting the ball out for a throw. And Brereton Diaz walked into Longstaff, didn't shove him, but just chest to chest. That's not advisable for a man who's on a yellow card for what led to the red.
And I also thought what was stupid, Danter, as well, was Longstaff. There was a bit of leverage. He did lean into Brereton Diaz. Do not do that. Look, he's the man who they're going to just boo and jeer throughout the rest of this game, Brereton Diaz. Don't get involved with him. It's not going to happen. You've got out 9 men. Forget it. The game's over.
Newcastle 0, Southampton 0 on Talksport 2. Game day exclusive. Newcastle down to 10 with Schär sent off. Goals elsewhere. Chesterfield have got a 4th at Crewe in the first half. Tom Naylor is playing as a centre half these days. Gets the 4th for the Spyrites. Sutton 1, Altrincham 0 in the National League. Birmingham have equalised at Wickham. Alfie May, what a signing that is, by the way. That's 2 in 2 for him. And Burnley 2-0 up on Cardiff, and their American Luca Cogliosho, he missed a lot of football last season. He scores the second. And Bournemouth equalise at Forest. Dango Ouattara makes it 1-1 at the City Ground, and Doncaster finished last season brilliantly in League 2, 1-0 up at Newport in League 2 at Rodney Parade. Owen Bailey for Donny. And elsewhere in League 2, Harrogate, they now lead at Accrington Stanley 2-1. Ellis Taylor for Harrogate. So, back here at St James's Park, it's been a fairly quiet, inauspicious start in the Premier League. Southampton with a man advantage, have Sugawara down the right-hand side of the area, pulls it back from the byline, does he? No, it hits the defender, and it actually came on Sugawara last of all. It's not a corner. A bit of ironic cheering from the Newcastle fans behind that goal at the Lees' end.
Well, I've got to say, I'm loving everything I'm seeing about Southampton. The only thing that's missing is that quality in front of goal. Their build-up play is fantastic. Sugawara is playing on that right-hand side. It's like he's been there for 2 or 3 seasons, Dance. He's getting over the halfway line. He's making things happen. His final ball is pretty decent. Energy to burn, but when he loses the ball, he gets back into position. He's making it really hard for Anthony Gordon down that left-hand side. They've been impressive, they really have. Look, they've had the ball in the back of the net. Yes, offside, right decision. Newcastle now down to 10 men. In Southampton's possession, he's just going to go through the roof.
Did you mean that, energy to burn, with a bloke called Burn on the field?
Yeah, but he needs to show a bit more energy.
Maybe so. You're listening to Newcastle 0, Southampton 0 on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Enterprise has vans of all shapes and sizes, so if you've got a plan, they've got a van. Southampton in possession with Kyle Walker-Peters. Gets over the halfway line. Out to guess who? On the left-hand side, Brereton Diaz. Tucked back in field for Walker-Peters. Sugawara in space out on the right. First time ball in field looking for Armstrong, is easily intercepted by Byrne. Clips the ball up to Gordon on the halfway line, but he runs into Harwood Bellis, who wins it back strongly. Then Walker-Peters is caught by Joe Linton. Free kick to Southampton. They want to take it quickly, but referee Pawson just wants to make sure that Walker-Peters is all right after Joe Linton trod on his toe. 0-0.
Yeah, but the problem now that Newcastle have got is their forward players have got to hold on to that ball, and they've got to hold on to it a lot better. And Anthony Gordon, the ball came to his path on 2 or 3 occasions. Even before he gets his head up, there's 2 or 3 Southampton players around him waiting to nick that ball off him. Isak not really got involved in the game at all, Dance, has he? His body language doesn't look great. Go back to the beginning of the game when we were chatting about this game, and I wonder if that speculation, whether he wants to be here or he maybe thought he was going to be playing elsewhere this season. I don't know, I'm making that up, but he's looked really poor so far.
We bring you goals as they go in on Talksport. We also bring you goals as they're ruled out because of VAR. That equaliser that Bournemouth thought they had at Nottingham Forest has been disallowed for VAR, so it remains Nottingham Forest 1, Bournemouth 0, and now Joe Aribo has been brought down right at the edge of the Newcastle penalty area. Dan Burn and Sean Longstaff, the latest to protest at Craig Pawson, and it was Burn sliding in. Ball and man on that challenge, do you think, Mickey Gray?
No, I think it's a foul. I think his first touch lets him down a little bit, Dan Burn. He tries to make up for it, slides in. Yes, he's got eyes on the ball, but he knows that he needs to take the player out, because if Aribo nicks that around him, he's inside that 18-yard box, and he started the game really lively, Aribo. And this is a real chance for Southampton. The corner of the 18-yard box, 2 or 3 Southampton players stood around it, Smallbone being one of them. I just wonder whether he's going to clip this towards the back stick or maybe try and catch Nick Pope out.
Swindon 0, Walsall 1 in League 2. Josh Gordon puts the Saddlers ahead for their manager Matt Sadler. Free kick to Southampton, who had this man advantage and have had it since the half-hour mark. 36 gone. Will Smallbone is the man standing over it. It's out towards the left-hand corner of the penalty area. It's only a 2-man wall, and it's not the strongest looking wall. And Nick Pope has left the left-hand side of the goal as we look towards the Lees' end, pretty much unguarded. Will Smallbone be tempted to go for it direct? There's players preparing to run in on the far side for an indirect free kick. Smallbone plays it up to the edge of the area on the deck. Oh, and it's attempted one off the training ground. Aribo gets it all wrong. Huge cheers from behind from the Newcastle fans away to our left. It's a goal kick to Eddie Howe's men, and it stays 0-0. Mickey Gray.
Oh, what a let-off. I mean, it's so sloppy, and it's some things that these Southampton players, they must have worked on. They've got a great opportunity there with Smallbone to whip it towards goal, or even just dink one towards that back stick. He pulls it back towards the edge of the D, and I don't know what the thinking is behind that. You've got a chance from 20 yards out. Test the goalkeeper.
Goal kick for Nick Pope. Southampton's possession's gone up to 70%, which I guess is no great surprise now, given that they've got the man advantage that they've had since the half-hour mark. And the way they like to play and the way they like to keep ball, I don't expect that percentage to change much from now until the end of the game.
I wonder if this helps them though, Dance, because they can have as much possession as they want. Now Newcastle are down to 10 men. They're going to sit in obviously a lot deeper, and it's going to make it harder for Southampton when they do get into that final third to break this back line in Newcastle down.
Crafty's playing in that position that Cher had, the right-sided centre-half. Seen him a lot at full-back for Newcastle United, but Livramento's kept his place. Crafty's next to Burn. Here's Armstrong, once of Newcastle United, playing for Southampton here. Walker-Peters under pressure from Guimaraes, works it back to Bednarek on halfway. That's a good ball through the halfway line for Joe Aribo, who can get on his bike down the left-hand side. Brereton Diaz picks it up. Once again, you probably didn't need me to tell you that he was in possession. Walker-Peters gives it back to Flynn Downs, just drifts away from Guimaraes. To his left is Aribo. Thought about a shot for a moment. Slides it down the left wing for Brereton Diaz. Back in field for Walker-Peters. Oh, he played a little reverse pass into the area, but Aribo hadn't spotted the idea and stayed caught on his heels, and Pope can just smother the ball. Newcastle 0, Southampton 0 on Talksport 2. 5 to the break.
Well, do you know what? The build-up play was fantastic. It really was from Southampton, and maybe a different player in possession would have got his shot away. And I'm thinking Bruno Fernandes, somebody like that, because Walker-Peters is the man who picks up the ball, and he's got, 20 yards to take the strike on. He tries that little reverse pass. It's good play. They're just not on the same wavelength in that final third, which is so unfortunate, because, as I said, the build-up play was fantastic from Southampton.
Really enjoying themselves, the Saints, on their return to the Premier League so far this afternoon. And their opening day record is horrible. Won just 2 of 24 Premier League opening games. But here they come down the right with Sugawara. Great cross and brilliant defending from Livramento to deny Ben Brereton Diaz getting a clean header on target. He headed it well wide in the end, the former Blackburn man. And that was great defending, covering from Tino Livramento, because the whip on the cross from Sugawara from the right-hand side was fantastic, 0-0.
I think he has to do better. Brereton Diaz, it's a brilliant ball in from Sugawara over on that right-hand side. I mean, pace, whip. Livramento doesn't know whether to stick or twist. Brereton Diaz gets in front of him. But when he does get there, the pace is on the cross stance. He's just got to guide it towards goal. He tries to angle it with power, and he gets it completely wrong.
Yukinari Sugawara cost 5 million from RZ in Dutch football. Second Japanese player to represent Southampton after Mayo Yoshida. You might remember him. It's not that long since he was playing at centre-half for the Saints.
Good player.
Throw into Newcastle United, and 4 minutes to go in this first half. It's Newcastle's throw inside their own half on the far side of the field from us, the east stand side. We're sat behind the dugouts as Livramento set upon by Walker-Peters in the centre circle, but does really well. Guimaraes looks to float the ball forward to Isak, and again doesn't get anywhere near it. Brereton Diaz guides it down for Aribo over the halfway line, and the former Rangers man just holds off Gordon, knocks it back 10 yards or so to Brereton Diaz, but he leaves it for Walker-Peters. He's under pressure from Gordon, has to go back into his own half, but possession very much the name of the game for Southampton, as it was all of last season in the second tier. They probably wouldn't have expected to have so much of the ball here, but they do, and they have a man advantage, don't forget, if you're just tuning in. 0-0. Brereton Diaz, the man at the centre of the red card controversy, lays it off to Walker-Peters. Aribo slid down the left-hand side of the box, gets to the byline, hits the cross against Livramento, and behind for a Southampton corner at the Leeds' end, 0-0.
Well, the pressure's still on this back line in Newcastle, and I just wonder, Eddie Howe's playing a 4-3-2 dance. I wonder whether Anthony Gordon's got to drop into that midfield and just make it 2 banks of 4, make it hard for Southampton to break them down, because they're getting into areas and angles where they get the opportunity to put that ball in the box. It just takes one player to switch off.
Swansea 1, Preston 0. Managerless Preston go behind to a penalty for Matt Grimes. Grimsby lead Cheltenham by a 1-0 in League 2. Jordan Davis, Smallbones corner for Southampton, headed up in the air, drops on the edge of the 6-yard box. Brereton Diaz guides it back to Flynn Downs. Not particularly proactive defending from Newcastle there. Sugawara plays it deep to the far post, headed across the face of goal by Harwood Bellis, but he was pushing Livramento as he did so. So it's a free kick to Newcastle. Jamil Matt has got a second for Walsall at Swindon. They lead 2-0 at the county ground. And it is 0-0 here. A couple of minutes left in the first half, and now there's a right old meeting going on between Jason Tindall, Graham Jones and Eddie Howe about how to handle the half-time team talk and what to instruct their players, Mickey Gray.
Yeah, whether it's personnel or not at half-time, Dancer, we'll have to wait and see, but I do think they have to try and shore up in that midfield area and do 4-4-1 rather than a 4-3-2. Also, whatever's going to be interesting at half-time as well, would you bring Brereton Diaz out for the second half on a yellow card? Because that's the last thing that Russell Martin wants, and it just takes one silly challenge from a forward player, and we've seen they can do it, and it's down to 10v10.
Well, it's his debut. He might be blowing a little bit. I don't know how much he extended himself in pre-season following his move from Villarreal. Didn't score in Spain. He was at Sheffield United, all given away by McCarthy. Isak plays it back to Joe Linton. 1-1. And Southampton guilty of playing the ball recklessly in their own defensive third. McCarthy, the goalkeeper, gave it away to Isak, and what a smart, intelligent pullback for Joe Linton to do the rest from about 12 yards out. Newcastle's goal, but Southampton's poor mistake. 1-1.
Well, you can't believe your eyes at times when you're watching games, and a side so on top for 45 minutes make a mistake through your goalkeeper, giving a ball away in your own 18-yard box, and then a simple 2-touch tap in for Joe Linton, his first touch out of his feet, and then just slots it into the bottom corner. We've not really talked about Newcastle as a threat really in the first half, but we did talk about Southampton giving the ball away sloppily at the back by overplaying out from the back, and they've been punished for it, and that is absolutely huge for 10-man Newcastle.
Newcastle 1, Southampton 0, as we move into 3 minutes of added time at the end of this first half. And And Joe Linton, the man from Brazil, 3 goals last season, but injuries stunted his progress. But he's put Newcastle ahead here. And Russell Martin will be absolutely incandescent that his team, having had control of the game with a man advantage, have given up a 0-0 scoreline so simply. Kraft will work the ball back to Nick Pope. First time clearance from him. Gordon's gone down under pressure from Harwood Bellis. And Bednarek, no foul, says the referee. Southampton bring it clear. Walker Peters for Southampton down the left wing for Brereton Diaz. Tries to hit the crossing from the left hand side, hits the thigh of Longstaff. Brereton Diaz keeps it in. Down to the left hand corner of the area, tries to find Walker Peters, but it goes back instead to Bednarek. Can Newcastle hold on to this lead to half time? That'll make the half time team talk so much easier. For Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall and co.
Yeah, absolutely, Danson. You'll be thrilled to pieces, Eddie, but it doesn't mean to say that the next half of 45 minutes is going to be easy, because they're going to have to work as hard as they are now.
Stevens finds Aribo just over the halfway line, tucks it in field for Walker Peters. He's given it away, and Gordon is away down the right hand side, rolling the challenge of Stevens. Tries to play the ball in. Is he brought down? He is. Stevens slid in and caught him right at the edge of the penalty area. Yellow card for Jack Stevens to match the colour of his shirt. And Newcastle are only a couple of feet away from getting themselves a penalty kick, but it's a free kick right down the right hand side of the penalty area at the Gallowgate end. 1-0 to Newcastle.
Well, you just wonder where that's been from the Newcastle players, certainly the forward players, and Anthony Gordon. He needed to show us that sharpness. Well, he certainly did that in that movement. He could see the challenge coming in from Stevens, the little nick around the corner, used his pace, and just that little touch away from him. And you're right, he's nearly inside of the 18-yard box, and Stevens, he leaves the ground. Yes, it is a yellow card. It's no way it's a red card, but that's better from Newcastle. The goal certainly gave them that little bit of confidence going into the final, minute and a half of this first half.
Yeah, we're into the final 20 seconds of the minimum 3 that have been added on. And Lewis Hall's come over to this right-hand side to join Anthony Gordon at this free kick. It's about 8 yards from the dead ball line, right outside the penalty area. And Longstaff is unmarked at the edge of the area. I wonder whether they'll pull it back to him. It's Lewis Hall that's going to take it left-footed. Goes for the near post, and it's headed out for a corner kick by Aribo, guarding that near post. 1-0 Newcastle.
Well, he got a lot of pace on it there, Lewis Hall. I just wonder whether Dan Burn maybe could have tried just a nick in front of his marker there. Would have been a difficult header, I have to say. But all the pressure, surprisingly, is coming from Newcastle.
Corner kick that Hall will take on this near side with the Gallowgate meets the Milburn stand. Left-footed in-swinger deep to the far post. Joe Linton heads it down, hits the chest of Downs, claims for handball. Certainly from the Gallowgate end, and Jason Tindall down beneath us has got his arms outstretched, looking at the fourth official, but nothing doing. And instead it'll be a throw-in to Newcastle on the left-hand side. But in fact the referee says that'll do it for the first half of football. Well, it's been not exactly quiet and uneventful in the first half here at St James's Park. There are still boos you can hear ringing around this stadium on Tyneside, but Newcastle do go in with their noses in front. That is in spite of the fact that they're down to 10 men. Southampton had kept the ball well and were frustrating Newcastle even before the flashpoint that saw Ben Brereton Diaz and Fabian Schär clash at the edge of the Newcastle penalty area. Brereton Diaz went down under as well, Schär walked into him. He went to ground like it was a headbutt that you would see in football before. And Craig Pawson gave a straight red card to the Newcastle centre-back. Southampton never really tested Nick Pope, even with that man advantage. And then Southampton's goalkeeper, Alex McCarthy, gave the ball away late on in the first half to Alexander Isak at the dead ball line, and such a clever pullback to find Joe Linton in space. And he just notched his first of the season to put Newcastle in front. Can the 10 men hang out in this second half and get 3 points and make it 3 opening day wins as Newcastle manager for Eddie Howe. They've got their work cut out with the man down. At the break, it's Newcastle United 1, Southampton 0.
And I can tell you there were some afters in the tunnel as well as the players went in. You heard the boos levelled at Ben Brereton Diaz and the referee Craig Pawson. Dan Burn then went over to Brereton Diaz to have a continued conversation from the one that he had when he tried to pull him up off the floor after that altercation with Fabian Schär. Jan Bednarek was involved in that as well. A couple of people having to separate the players. So cool heads needed for the second half, particularly from Southampton. It was a really strange 45 minutes of football, completely against the run of play. Newcastle go in, a goal to the good Mickey Gray, but they weren't the better side.
Nowhere near the better side, Faye, absolutely. And I think what we've seen in 45 minutes is everything you're going to see from Southampton throughout the whole of the season. A lot of possession, risks taken from the back players and the goalkeeper coming out, and they're going to concede goals, and the lack of goals at the other end, all in a nutshell, to be honest with you. Russell Martin has to take 100% full blame for Alex McCarthy coming out and trying to play out from the back in that situation, because I know 75-80% of goalkeepers in that situation would have just cleared their lines. He wants them to play out, so he has to take full responsibility. And there's no point in a goalkeeper going in at half time and saying, sorry lads, that was my fault, because that's what the manager wants the goalkeeper to do. And
equally,
it was just criminal.
He just needed to look up. Look up and you'll see that Alexander Isak is right in front of you, so don't pass it to him.
Exactly. Look, they've looked fantastic at times, Southampton, I have to say that. Coming out from the park, the build-up play has been outstanding. Walker-Peters and Sugawara as wing-backs have been absolutely outstanding. And then the movement from the forward players, but they haven't got that killer instinct when they do get in that final third. And I said to Danter in that first half, I just wonder whether he takes a little bit of the pressure off Brereton Diaz and maybe takes him off in the second half. But the problem he's got now is they find themselves a goal behind, so he needs strikers on the pitch.
Well, listen, Dance doesn't need to commentate every time Brereton Diaz touches the ball, because the crowd do it for him. You can hear the boos, and they're not going to stop if he stays on the pitch. A couple of other things to go through with you. The offside goal, Jack Stevens from Will Smallbone's shot. I mean, it looked as if it was going into the far corner.
Yeah.
He wasn't blocking the goalkeeper's view, so it would have stood. You've just got to have a little bit more awareness about you.
Yeah, and I said that in commentary as well, Faye. I just thought it was going to nick inside that inside post, and Jack Stevens, obviously his eyes have lit up, centre half. He's got 2 yards to put the ball in the back of the net, and I think a lot of players in that situation probably would have done the same thing, but it was good play from Aribo initially, the pull back towards Smallbone. But that's what they're about, Southampton. The movement's been excellent, it really has, and Newcastle never got going until basically till they're well down to 10 men. I think the last 10 minutes of the game they showed signs. And the goal, I mean, what a lifeline that is for Eddie Howe. He just did not see that coming at all.
No, he didn't. And I looked up at the screen and was like, where did that come from in terms of the sending off of Fabian Schär? You cannot. He is an experienced defender, an experienced Premier League player. You cannot react in a situation like that.
No.
Brereton Diaz had got the yellow card already. That was blatant. He shoved him in the back. But you just don't put yourself in that situation. Very difficult to see. I don't think that Craig Pawson could have come to any other conclusion than the one that he came to. There was a coming together of the heads. They did kind of walk in, but the person, the player in the ascendancy, if you like, was Fabian Schär, and going aggressively.
Yeah, no, I think you're completely right there, Faye. Fabian Schär was silly, but I think this all boils down to the way that Newcastle started the game in the first half an hour. They just weren't at the races.
Frustrated with themselves.
Absolutely, yeah. So Fabian Schär didn't want the shove in the back first, but when he got himself back to his feet, Brereton Diaz is, look, we'd call it clever. As an ex-player, I'd call it clever, because he gets in the face of Schär. All he's waiting for is that little bit of contact in his face, and he makes the most of it. My goodness, does he. And that's why we heard those boos and the jeers throughout the whole of the first half. But do not do that as a centre-half, because you know what's going to happen. Referees in this situation, certainly the first day of the season as well, Craig Pawson couldn't wait to put his hand in his back pocket to pick out that red card.
Well, we've got VAR now, so you can't be that clever, and you can't be that,
you can't get away with anything.
You can't get away with anything, absolutely. Right, you can get away and have a cup of tea. I'll speak to you very shortly. Let's take a look at tonight's Premier League action with Sky Sports.
Stay ahead of the game on Talksport 2 with Sky Sports. Stream more Sky Sports football than ever before. Available with no contract on now. Like West Ham versus Aston Villa live today. Search Now Sports. 18 plus. Stream via internet. Terms apply.
Talksport's Ian Abrahams is with us, looking ahead to West Ham against Aston Villa. Hello, Ian.
Hi, Faye. How are you?
Really well, thank you. Julian Lopetegui's joined as manager this summer. Are we expecting a very, very different West Ham than the one we saw under David Moyes?
In terms of personnel, I think Julian Lopetegui's West Ham will look very different in terms of the fact that he's made 8 signings. I don't think all 8 will start today, but I think Wan-Bissaka's got a chance at right back if fit. Max Kilman will definitely start. I mean, no, he was a rock at the back for Wolves when Lopetegui was there. I'd like to see Somerville and Fulcrook. I'm very intrigued by what he can produce. Nicholas Fulcrook. West Ham have a reputation, let's say, over the last 20 years plus of having brought in strikers, and they've been scoring goals by the bucket load everywhere else they've played except here. So it'll be great to see whether he can reproduce his form from Germany here. I hope he does. And I think we'll probably see Todibo at the back. Todibo at the back as well. So I think we're seeing a smattering of the new signings, definitely, and it will be a rather new look team with a new look captain, of course, in Jared Bowen.
Yeah, well deserved for him. He's been brilliant for you. I say you because most people know you're a West Ham fan. But in terms of Aston Villa, I mean, look, an incredible season, historical with their Champions League qualification. But we've seen what that's done to teams in the past. Have they got enough reinforcements to be able to make a good fist of it and still do well in the Premier League?
I don't see why not. I mean, West Ham have brought in 8 players, so too have Villa. I know that there've been probably more departures from Villa than West Ham. Most of West Ham's departures so far have been sort of in the youth ranks. There have been a few others like Ben Johnson, etc. But I think really they have probably brought in enough, and it will be interesting to see what Onana brings to their midfield. But the 2 key players are the ones that were there from last season for me. That's the goalkeeper, Emi Martinez, and obviously Ollie Watkins up front. I think Watkins had a super season last year and proved even for England at the Euros that he is a man who can score goals in any situation. I saw Villa 3 or 4 times last year. He scored every single time, at least once. I think it was twice actually against your mob, Luton at Kenilworth Road. So listen, he's absolutely deadly, and I'm expecting West Ham today against Aston Villa to be a really decent game of football.
You had to bring that up, didn't you?
Sorry.
Unbelievable. Enjoy the game today. Go on the Villa. Ian Abrahams there will bring you updates on Talksport during the game day. Phone in. That was a look ahead to this afternoon's Premier League action with Sky Sports. Don't forget you can stream more Sky Sports football than ever before. Available with no contract on now, just like West Ham against Aston Villa, which is live today. Just search Now Sports.
Stay ahead of the game on Talksport 2 with Sky Sports. Stream more Sky Sports football than ever before. Available with no contract on now. Like West Ham versus Aston Villa live today. Search Now Sports. 18 plus. Stream via internet. Terms apply.
This is Game Day exclusive on Talksport 2. Second half action of Newcastle Southampton coming next. It's a goal. Newcastle are a goal up against Southampton thanks to Joe Linton, but they're down to 10 after Fabian Schär was sent off for violent conduct. We'll bring you the other half-time scores as well from across the Premier League and EFL here on Talksport 2.
Game Day exclusive on Talksport 2 with Sky Sports. Stream more Sky Sports football than ever before. Available with no contract on now. Like West Ham versus Aston Villa live today. Search Now Sports. 18 plus. Stream via internet. Terms apply.
Settle down for a night of crime. Witness a heist. Follow a car chase. Eat too much popcorn. Meet a mafia boss. Join in on a bank robbery. Think about making a cup of tea. Be too comfortable to get up. For less.
Selected IKEA sofas are now at a new lower price, along with thousands of other products. IKEA, the wonderful everyday.
It's McDonald's 50th birthday, so to get you in the party mood, we're turning our ad breaks into dance breaks. Okay, you start with your left hand behind your head and you put your right arm stretched out in front of you. You're then going to bring these 2 arms together and do 3 pumps. You can then switch sides and feel free to add a little enthusiastic nose scrunch as you go. And there you have it. You've conquered the sprinkler. McDonald's 50th birthday. You're all invited.
Screwfix Sprint delivers from store to door in 60 minutes or less. So, whatever the job, you can do it with less waiting and more working, less downtime and more doing. So don't break your stride. Screwfix Sprint. Order now exclusively on a Screwfix app. £5 delivery charge, no minimum spend. Don't stop. Sprint. Conditions and geographical restrictions apply. Selected products.
Now that football is back, you're going to want to follow every kick, goal, card, and transfer as soon as it happens. So from Ipswich back in the big time, to Villa in the Champions League, and City going for 5 in a row, you know where to go. Follow it all at thesun.co.uk.
You don't just check in to a village hotel. You work out. You jump in. You play on. You tuck in. And drink up. Village Hotels. 33 locations with everything under one roof. A huge gym with pool and great membership opportunities. And a buzzing pub and grill with delicious food, ice-cold beers and live sport. Check out villagehotels.com and work out, stay, meet and play.
We all fantasize about our perfect home. Watching the big game cozied up in the snug.
Another 7-0 win!
Balmy summer nights with the kids playing on the lawn.
We're playing real-life football!
But come on, this isn't real. Listen, if you're serious about making your fantasy a reality, find out what your home is worth instantly with a free online valuation estimate. Get real about moving. Get on the market. Most common time to obtain an online quote between 1st of April 2024 and 30th of June 2024 was under 3 minutes. Excludes Northern Ireland.
Game day exclusive on Talksport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Rent from the best lineup in the UK. Enterprise has 450 branches with all the vehicles your business needs.
A pitch-perfect delivery of Premier League football.
Game day.
The epicentre of world-class football coverage.
Can you believe it?
Game day exclusive
On Talksport 2.
This is Game Day.
Half-time classifieds.
This is Game Day exclusive on Talksport 2. I'm Faye Carruthers. Let's take a classified check on the half-time scores, starting with
Premier League.
At the Emirates, second half has kicked off. It's Arsenal 1, Wolves 0. At half-time, it's Everton 0, Brighton 1, Newcastle 1, Southampton 0, Nottingham Forest 1, Bournemouth 0. West Ham Aston Villa kicks off at 5:30.
Sky Bet Championship.
Bristol City 2, Millwall 0, Burnley 2, Cardiff 0, Norwich 0, Blackburn 1, Plymouth 0, Hull 0, Sheffield United 2, QPR 0, Swansea 1, Preston 0, Watford 0, Stoke 0. Let's head back to St James's Park. Ben Brereton Diaz is back on the pitch for the second half. Let's join our commentary team of Mickey Gray and Ian Danter.
Well, you're right, Faye, he is, but Yukinari Sugawara is not. It would appear that Samuel Edozie is going to be brought on as a half-time change for Southampton. He's never completed 90 minutes, Samuel Edozie, for Southampton. Subbed in all 26 starts he made last season. 10 million quid from Manchester City. It's been quite a route, actually, Mickey Gray, from Manchester City to Southampton in recent times. You think of Harwood Bellis, who's made that journey in recent times, Edozie as well. And so that's would appear to mean that Walker Peters is going to go to right back. Stevens will play left back, which he has played before, rather than centre half, and a flat back four for Southampton at the start of this second period.
Well, it just gives them that extra body in the.
This is Game Day exclusive on Talksport 2. I'm Faye Carruthers. We're just about to kick off at St James's Park. It sounded to me there with that big screech that it was a plug being pulled out. Ian Danter is back with us.
Not my fault, nothing to do with me. Back underway anyway, with Southampton in their fluorescent yellow away strip, shirts and socks and black shorts, dark shorts, up against Newcastle United in their black and white stripes, black shorts and socks. And Newcastle will be kicking towards the Lees' end to our left in this second period. Southampton kicking left to right as we look behind the dugouts from our commentary position towards the Gallagher end. And it's Samuel Edozie who's just on the field then for Southampton, trying to get the better of Livramento. Has he won a corner? He has. Early corner for Southampton at the start of the second half, away to our right-hand side. 1-0 Newcastle.
Yeah, well, Edozie's came on that left-hand side, and he got the jeers because I think all the Newcastle supporters thought it was Brereton Diaz, but he started very brightly, won his side an early corner in the second half, but they got that extra man in those forward positions, which can only help them.
Smallbone will have the corner on the far side of the field, clips it into the near post, headed up in the air by Joe Linton, half cleared by Dan Burn. It might drop for Aribo at the edge of the area, but Anthony Gordon got a piece of it, cleared away by Longstaff, but ahead of Guimaraes, who's caught by Smallbone. There's a head injury for Guimaraes. I don't think it was classed as a foul by referee Craig Pawson, but he wants to make sure that Guimaraes gets the right treatment, and so the physios may well be asked to come onto the field. Let me run you through the lineups. Incidentally, Watford 1, Stoke 0 early in the second half in the Championship at Okayembe, and Mark Roberts has put Barnsley 2-0 up at Lincoln in League One. So for Newcastle, it's now Pope in goal, Livramento, Kraft, Byrne and Hall in a back four, Longstaff, Guimaraes, Joe Linton, Isak and Gordon. Remember, they're down to 10 men. Share sent off in the first half, and Jacob Murphy was withdrawn to allow Kraft to come on in his place. And for Southampton, McCarthy in goal, so it's now a back four of Walker Peters, Harwood Bellis, Bednarek and Stevens, Smallbone, Downs, Aribo, Edozie, Brereton Diaz and Armstrong. Free kick to Newcastle. Couple of minutes into the second half, they lead by 1-0. Newport equalise at home to Doncaster. Courtney Baker-Richardson gets the equaliser for the Exiles, and as Joe Linton does brilliantly to try and win a corner, it ends up just being a throw for Southampton. Crewe 0, Chesterfield 5. Armando Dobra, who has scored 3 in 3 now, I make that, for Chesterfield. Great start to the season for him and for the Spyrights. And Plymouth lead Hull at Home Park. I was down there on Wednesday to see them edge past Chesterfield in the Carabao Cup. And Ibrahim Sissoko, who looked a bit of a handful when he came on as a sub, he's got the opener for the Pilgrims. Bristol City 2, Millwall 1. Romain Essa gets a goal back for Millwall at Ashton Gate. That was 2-0 at half-time. Lots of early goals in the second half. Mickey Gray alongside me, Ian Danter here in St James's Park. The Southampton fans way up to our left-hand side in the top of the Lees' end. Watch on as they're defending that penalty area closest to them. Volley clear from Harwood, from Bednarek, I beg your pardon. Out of play for a throw on this near side. And it's taken by Lewis Hall, and Anthony Gordon trying to get to the byline, but that's well protected by Taylor Harwood-Bellis. And it's a goal kick taken quickly by Southampton as Walsall go 3 up at Swindon. Taylor Allen scored the winner at the Poundland Stadium on their season opener last week, so that's 2-2 league games for him. And Huddersfield are 2-0 up on Stevenage through Ben Wiles, and Watford 2-0 up on Stoke through Ryan Andrews. Tom Cleverley making a decent start to life as a manager, Mickey Gray.
Well, he did. When he first initially went through the door, they played some wonderful football and got some great results, didn't they?
Mickey's off to Sunderland tomorrow. His beloved Black Cats at home to Sheffield Wednesday, live on Talksport 2 at midday. Here is Southampton coming for the Rebo. Adam Armstrong cleared off the line by Hall and then fired wide on the rebound by Brereton Diaz. Think it's gone out for a corner kick. Took a deflection off a Newcastle boot. Brilliant goal line clearance from Lewis Hall to stop Southampton equalising in the first instance.
Well, they should be on level terms. Armstrong, great little pass towards goal. Lewis Hall, absolutely outstanding. But when it comes back out to Brereton Diaz,
here's Smallbone pulling it back from the byline, deflected behind for another corner by Sean Longstaff. Second corner in quick succession of the Gallagher for Southampton, who are a man up but a goal down.
The pressure's on now, isn't it? Southampton get themselves on the front foot. They're going to play a little short corner here, but they are trying to get themselves back on level terms.
Smallbone with the corner to the 6-yard line, headed up in the air by Byrne, drops at the edge of the box for Downs, who tries to head it back out to this near side, the Southampton right. Edozie took a touch, but that allowed Pope to come out and smother just to the left of his 6-yard area. 1-0 to Newcastle, 5 minutes gone in the second half, but that jeopardy remains that Southampton have the man advantage, and they've made that. What do you make of that half-time change, incidentally, Mickey Gray? Going to a flat back four and taking Sugawara off. It didn't do a lot wrong in that first half, did he, on debut?
Well, system-wise, not a problem. I think it was maybe expected, but personnel probably.
Here comes Brereton Diaz inside right channel, plays the ball in field. Adam Armstrong takes a charge. Brilliant save by Nick Pope. Armstrong's right-footed shot. We were right behind it. That was destined for the top corner. Magnificent save from Nick Pope to keep Newcastle 1-up.
And it was moving in the air as well, wasn't it? Adam Armstrong's eyes must have lit up. Just had an opportunity a moment before that. Well, he gets his strike away, and Nick Pope, absolutely outstanding, stood his ground, wonderful save.
Smallbone whips in the short corner effort. It's headed away by Isak, drops at the centre of the half for Walker Peters, headed back into the area. Joe Linton and Byrne between them, hook it clear. Comes out to Aribo on the Southampton right, tries to cross in with his left. It's blocked by Lewis Hall. And we'll get back to that goal line clearance in a minute, because that was outstanding defending to deny Adam Armstrong a goal from Lewis Hall, and then Armstrong denied by the goalkeeper, Nick Pope, with a flying one-handed save.
Well, what a start to the second half. Looked like Newcastle got themselves on the front foot, trying to get themselves a second goal, but it's all Southampton now, putting so much pressure on this back line in Newcastle.
Edozie now down the left-hand side for Southampton. Slid in Livramento against his old club. It's another corner. I think that's 4 corners inside 7 second half minutes for Southampton, but Newcastle still 1-0 up.
Well, and that change, Dance, that you talked about, Sam Edozie's came on, he's been really lively. That will please Russell Martin, no doubt about it. He's looked really lively, put a great ball into the box, looks to try and take his full back on when he gets the chance.
So Smallbone with the corner onto the 6-yard line, comes off the back of a Newcastle player, and will be another corner, will it? That's been given as a goal kick. I thought that came off a Southampton, a Newcastle player last of all, but Craig Pawson had a better view than me. Grimsby 2, Cheltenham 0, Charles Burnham for the Mariners, and Millwall have equalised at Bristol City, 2-0 down at half-time, but now it's 2-2 at Ashton Gate. Tom Bradshaw from the penalty spot equalising for the London Lions. Here at St James's Park, you with Talksport 2, game day exclusive. Lots of live sport to come later today here on Talksport 2. We're off to Ellen Road at the conclusion of this game to pick up the coverage of Magic Weekend in Super League, where all 12 teams across today and tomorrow play at Ellen Road in a brilliant round of rugby league fixtures. St Helens Wiggins the game will pick up, and Warrington Leeds later tonight. Great challenges in midfield as Downs and Longstaff combine, and then Gordon is held back by Flynn Downs. Gordon wanted the advantage played, but Craig Pawson blows the whistle, and Newcastle have a free kick midway point of the Southampton half, 1-0.
Oh, love that, Dance. There was a throwback, wasn't it? Longstaff on Downs, brilliant 50-50 challenge. Then he got himself up, Downs, won the ball back for his team, and Silly just had a little tug, didn't he, of Anthony Gordon's shirt and gave a foul away, but you heard the cheer. It was like a goal went in. I love that. Throwback to when I was playing that. Brilliant.
Wasn't that long ago. Bruno Guimaraes with a free kick for Newcastle United. Deep to the far post. Heads go up. It might drop just at the edge of the area for Kraft. Edge of the 6-yard box. Desperate clearance from Southampton. And Bednarek has stayed down. There's a left-footed shot that goes sailing over the bar from Lewis Hall, who 2 minutes ago was in position A as a fullback, covering around behind his centre-halves to prevent Adam Armstrong from equalising for Southampton with the goal line clearance.
It was fantastic, wasn't it? You know, instinct just says to you as a fullback, I need to get back on my goal line here because my goalkeeper's in trouble. And Adam Armstrong, he's half running away celebrating. Absolutely brilliant clearance, but then when it falls to Brereton Diaz straight after, you're just waiting for the ball to fire its way onto the back of the net. How he's missed it, and from that far as well. Whether he was thinking about what happened in the first half or not, I do not know, but Again, Dan's going back to Brereton Diaz. I'm really surprised he's still out there.
Well, he's playing more centrally now, isn't he?
Yes,
now that Edosi's come on, he's actually tucking in more and playing with Armstrong.
Yeah, Armstrong over on this right-hand side. They're playing with a 3 now, aren't they? With the Rebo just tucked in behind them as the 10. And they are causing Newcastle a lot more problems in that final third, but go back to it before this game started. Where are the goals going to come from Southampton? It's the only thing I could see wrong with their game.
Cameron Archer is available on the substitutes bench. Their arrival yesterday from Aston Villa did register in time so he can be part of things today. That's an option for Russell Martin. Goals in the Championship. Burnley 3-0 up on Cardiff now. Josh Brownhill with the third. QPR get a goal back at Sheffield United. Sheffield United 2, QPR 1, Jimmy Dunn. And Kelvin Ehebachiman has put Reading 2-0 up against Wigan. And Danny Welbeck has doubled Brighton's lead at Everton in the Premier League. That's Everton 0, Brighton 2. Here we go again, say the Everton fans. Yeah. You're listening to Newcastle 1, Southampton 0 on Talksport 2 with Sky Sports. Don't forget you can stream more Sky Sports football than ever before, available with no contract on Now, like West Ham against Aston Villa live today. Search Now Sports. Southampton in possession and playing it around in that defensive third, not put off at all by the sloppy passing that led to Newcastle's goal. Samuel Edozie out on the left-hand side for the Saints, on the far side of the field from us, with the visitors attacking the Gallowgate in this second half. Here is Jan Bednarek.
Don't know why they're booing Edozie, Dance. I don't know if something's happened prior to this game, but maybe they do think he looks a bit like Brereton Diaz.
Well, here is Brereton Diaz hitting the ball against the chest of Guimaraes in the area, and Guimaraes will let the ball get to the touchline on the far side, then fire it downfield. But there was nobody in a black and white shirt. You wouldn't expect anybody to be that high up the pitch with Newcastle down to 10. Isak is the furthest forward, but he was still just inside his own half. And despite all the conversations that Eddie Howe, Jason Tindall and Graham Jones were having prior to half-time, no changes in the way Newcastle have been set up since the red card.
Yeah, still that 4-3-2, which surprises me a little bit. I know when they get an opportunity, they want to use the pace of Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak, but you've got to win the ball back first.
Edozie down the left-hand side for Southampton once again. Livramento facing him up. He's about level with the edge of the penalty area. Plays it infield to Armstrong. Flick further infield to Downs. He has to turn it backwards to square to Bednarek, thinking he was under pressure. Now taken over by Taylor Harwood-Bellis. Now a permanent signing from Manchester City after 46 appearances on loan last year. Brereton Diaz gets to the byline, whips across him, headed away at the near post by Byrne. Comes back out to the right-hand side. Walker-Peters, claims of handball against him not given. Trying to take on Lewis Hall. Just checks his run for a moment. Plays a little 1-2 at the right-hand corner of the area with Downs. Still has it, Walker-Peters, trying to make room for a cross. But Guimaraes gets back at him and wins it back. And the Newcastle fans love that. Oh, and then a sloppy ball from Hall finds Brereton Diaz. Edge of the area, back to goal, Adam Armstrong. Trying to tee up Stevens, now out to Edozie. Left-hand side, gets it onto his right, then onto his left. Tries to drill it across the face of goal. Poor attempted cross. Newcastle hurriedly clear, but it stays 1-0 as we approach the hour mark. Newcastle, a man down, but a goal up.
Lewis Hall, lucky boy. Just sung his praises, how well he's done defensively, clearing that ball off the line. He did have a shot on goal, it didn't really threaten at the other end, but I have to say, when he's coming out from the back there, just that little flick he tried to play back to one of his centre-halves, you need to know he's there, giving the ball away, sloppy.
1-0 to Newcastle. Flynn Downs for Southampton, finds Armstrong, midway point of the Newcastle half. Played back to Stevens. Now Bednarek across to Joe Aribo, who's on the right-hand side of midfield now. Out to the right wing, and Kyle Walker-Peters got Hall back-pedalling, drives for the byline, whips it across the face of goal. Good defending at the near post by Dan Byrne. Comes out to Aribo. Keeps his footing well under pressure from Hall. Good strength from Joe Aribo. Right-hand corner of the area. Just thought fleetingly about a shot on his left for a moment. Instead plays it backwards to square to Bednarek. Now it's with Harwood-Bellis. And Bednarek again. Harwood-Bellis just to his right. But he's played it into a little wall pass, 1-2 with Flynn Downs. Armstrong back to play, 30 yards out. Drifts out to the left, gives it to Edozie. He's faced up by Longstaff. Back to the edge of the area. Ball fired in, looking for Adam Armstrong. Newcastle clear. Only Anthony Gordon up towards the halfway line, and he's fouled by Brereton Diaz and Edozie, and the free kick taken too quickly. Goals elsewhere. Plymouth 1, Hull 1. Louis Coyle equalises for Hull. Grimsby 2, Cheltenham 1. Luke Young gets a goal back for Cheltenham. Swansea are 2-0 up on Preston now. Azim Abdullahi and Duncan Watmore. What a comeback for Millwall. 3-2 up at Bristol City from being 2-0 down at the break. Watmore notched a couple last weekend as well, if I remember rightly, so he's getting off to a great start.
Yeah, he just needs to play on a regular basis.
Well, you remember his time at Sunderland,
I do.
Mickey.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Well, here we are in the northeast. Mickey stays in the northeast overnight, so he heads off to his beloved Stadium of Light tomorrow from noon, live on Talksport 2 here in the EFL. Sunderland against Sheffield Wednesday, and straight after that we'll be off to the Tough Sheet Community Stadium, Bolton against Wrexham at 3 o'clock. I don't think Ofcom will have a problem with that.
No, I visited that stadium on about 5 or 6 occasions last season for Talksport, and I think I did exactly the same as you've done, Dan.
Take your time. Take your time over the name pronunciation. You've got all the time in the world, Mick. Southampton don't have all the time in the world. They're less than half an hour to get back on terms here, but they've got a man advantage. Walker Peters finds Danter at the edge of the area, tries to tee up Armstrong, tries to play it through the legs of a defender, breaks for Smallbone, and then Armstrong again tries an effort from inside the area. After a bit of pinball, Kraft and Hall between them smuggle it clear for Newcastle, but it feels like it's the last 5 minutes of the game with Southampton trying to find an equaliser.
Yeah, it certainly does, and you know there's a wall in front of Nick Pope now, isn't there? In Southampton just can't break it down, and this might boil down to Dancer just not making the right decision.
Smallbone plays a cross in. This time it's blocked away by Joe Linton. It's only half cleared. Armstrong with his back to goal. Tees up Flynn Downs. It's blocked on its way to goal. Comes out to Rebo, and his shot is deflected wide for a corner kick. And Southampton are turning the screw here, but they can't find that effort to test Nick Pope since he made that save from Armstrong 10 minutes ago. 62 gone, 1-0 Newcastle.
Do you know, as a defender, Dance, or a full-back, when you make a mistake, don't make another a couple of minutes after. Lewis Hall, yet again, trying to play out from the back, and I don't understand it. If you've got players around you and you're panicking a little bit, clear your lines.
Smallbone with the latest corner for Southampton, looking for Stevens. It's headed away by Joe Linton, drops at the edge of the area. Aribo shows good strength to keep it away from Gordon, but then in step Guimaraes, and Gordon was away, but there was a foul by Guimaraes, and a free kick to Southampton for the challenge on Downs, and Anthony Gordon was sprinting clear as that whistle went. He can't believe that the offence has been given against Newcastle United, so it's a free kick to Southampton.
Oh, and he's in a foot race, isn't he, Anthony Gordon, alongside Walker Peters, Guimaraes. I don't know how Craig Pawson's given that foul. Looked as if there was an arm across the face of Guimaraes there, and I thought the foul went the wrong way. You can hear the boos and the jeers. They're frustrated, the Newcastle supporters. They probably come here today, Dance, expecting a 2-0 or a 3-0 win. We were talking about it, weren't we, before the game kicked off? It's not panned out that way. Yes, they're in front, but they're hanging on. If they can come away from St James's today with 3 points, it will be absolutely huge.
As it goes, 63 minutes gone on Talksport 2's game day exclusive. It is Newcastle United 1, Southampton 0. Newcastle have been down to 10 men since the half hour. A straight red card for Fabian Schär. Albert Adoma, Uncle Albert, has got Walsall's 4th at Swindon. So the county ground, a very happy hunting ground for the Saddlers this afternoon in League 2. They just missed out on the playoffs last year, Walsall. Joe Linton's just down here, just holding his right big toe through his boot. Got caught in a challenge that's led to a Newcastle free kick. Accrington 2, Harrogate 2 in League 2. Jimmy Knowles equalises for Stanley. Guimaraes with a free kick for Newcastle. Up to the edge of the area. Up went Kraft, but he couldn't win the header. Aribo prevents the corner, just toe pokes it down the left-hand side, and it goes out of play for a Newcastle throw. And Newcastle will be desperate to keep the ball in the Southampton half for as long as they possibly can and relieve the pressure on their back four, Mickey Gray.
You see, Newcastle just had a free kick, yes, from a long way out, and Guimaraes has just lofted one, if you like, into the 18-yard area, and they're trying to aim for Kraft. I don't understand why they don't get Dan Burn out on that right-hand side. No, he's a foot and a half taller than anybody else on the pitch.
Southampton again playing the ball around the edge of their own penalty area, and Walker-Peters just gets the better of Joe Linton, but then runs into Longstaff as he tried to win the second ball. Brereton Diaz gets an important foot in. Lovely footwork from Walker-Peters inside his own half. Brereton Diaz can't win the loose ball because in slid Bruno Guimaraes. Newcastle fans love that. And then Joe Linton lofts it over the top. Lewis Hall is furthest forward, but it's guided back to the keeper by Jack Stevens. Boy, oh boy, that was a near thing for Southampton to give the ball away again, but the Newcastle fans loving that. They still lead 1-0 Newcastle. 25 minutes to go on Talksport 2.
And when they get their opportunity to go forward, Newcastle, they actually do look a threat. They get numbers in that 18-yard area, and you can hear the supporters are getting behind them.
Walker-Peters tries a cross shot from the right-hand corner of the penalty area that just ricochets up in the air, and a comfortable claim. Mansfield 2, Burton 2. Ben Whitfield gets an equaliser for Burton at the one call. Lincoln get a goal back at home to Barnsley. Ben House. Ashley Young's been sent off for Everton for professional foul, it says, denying a clear goal scoring opportunity, I assume. Newport are in front, having been behind at home to Doncaster. 2-1 they lead. Kai Whitmore. Northampton 1, Exeter 1. Callum Morton, the former West Brom player, equalises for the Cobblers at Sixfields. Almost at the midway point of the second half here on Talksport 2. Newcastle 1-0 up, but you wouldn't know it. The atmosphere around St James's Park, it sort of flits, Mickey Gray, between anticipation, excitement and pure dread.
Yeah. Well, they're worried, aren't they, if Southampton get themselves back on level terms, and they've created so many chances in this second half. But it's Newcastle, when they do go forward, they actually look a threat with Anthony Gordon, Joe Linton and Isak. For me, Dance, I don't know if you're the same. I think he still has to do a little bit more. We know he's got the quality, but here's another chance for Newcastle.
Gordon whips in the free kick and it drops at the far post. Did anybody get a touch? No. Went all the way through for a goal kick. It dropped about 5 yards wide of McCarthy's left-hand post. Norwich 1, Blackburn 1. Josh Sargent equalises for Norwich at Carrow Road, and Birmingham 2-1 up at Wickham. They've come from behind. Luke Harris, on loan from Fulham, gets his first goal for the Blues. And it's 1-0 here to Newcastle, but here comes Southampton with Carl Walker-Peters. Jinks in field to get away from Lewis Hall. I might give Joe Shannon a call on my way home if the score stays like that. Adam Fark. Just stir the pot a little bit. Here's Samuel Edozie down the left-hand side of the area. He's trying to get away from Livramento. Good touch from Livramento, but he's conceded yet another corner. That's got to be 6 corners that Southampton have won in this second half alone at the Gallagate end, and Smallbone's gone across to that far side to take the next one, and he's taken it short to Edozie, who's come out to join him. Edozie faced up by Guimaraes, so he sends the ball back to the centre of the half, and Flynn Downs. Walker-Peters goes for goal ambitiously from distance, ricochets back out to Rebo. Good reverse ball down the right hand side of the box, pulled back by Harwood Bellis, looking for Brereton Diaz, but on the scene was Lewis Hall. Good defending again from the youngster. Throw in for Newcastle, who are repairing a double change here. Harvey Barnes is going to come on, and so too for his debut is Lloyd Kelly, who's worked with Eddie Howe before in his Bournemouth days, and he's about to take his Newcastle bow. The players coming off. Anthony Gordon is going to be replaced by Harvey Barnes, and another good shift from Gordon today, much beloved of these fans here at St James's Park. And the other change, Lewis Hall, who's just put in that good challenge, but he has had a couple of aberrations during the game. He's coming off to give Lloyd Kelly his debut. There's also going to be a double change for Southampton. And I mentioned Cameron Archer earlier, Mickey Gray. Only signed yesterday, but he's getting his chance. And so too is a youngster who's come back to Southampton, having gone from St Mary's to Chelsea, but it didn't really work out for Tyler Dibbling. And So he's coming off, and Joe Aribo is coming off for Dibbling to replace him, wearing number 33, Tyler Dibbling. And Cameron Archer just getting some final instructions. And the player coming off for him is... Can you guess? I'll give you 3 guesses, TalkSport 2 listener. Yeah, you're dead right on the first one. Ben Brereton Diaz. The pantomime villain goes back to the bench, and his afternoon is done and dusted. So Cameron Archer making his debut. Let's see what he's got to offer in a Southampton shirt. Arsenal 2, Wolves 0. Bukayo Saka doubles Arsenal's lead elsewhere in the Premier League 3 o'clock kickoffs. Remember, we've got Leicester Tottenham live on Monday night on TalkSport. So many games we bring you, so many games, to paraphrase the Newcastle caller from all those years ago. Premier League, Championship, EFL, EFL Cup, FA Cup, Champions League, Europa Conference League, Football League Trophy, Internationals, Nations League. Have I missed anything out, Mickey?
No, well, probably.
Have, but yeah.
There's that many to remember, isn't it? But it's incredible. And we love doing it.
We certainly do. 3-1 to Newport against Doncaster. Matt Baker with a third for Newport, and Stockport lead at Blackpool. Louis Barry with the opener at Bloomfield Road. Southampton coming forward. They're a goal down. Samuel Edozie just inside the area, left-hand side, trying to work space to clip it to the far post, but that was good defending by Lloyd Kelly, just nudging into Adam Armstrong, so he couldn't get any height and jump for a header at the far post. You're listening to Newcastle 1, Southampton 0 on TalkSport 2 with Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Whatever the mission, home or away, Enterprise helps over 120,000 people every day. Ian Danter and Mickey Gray with you, and there's 18 minutes of normal time to play on Tyneside.
Well, I'm no coach, Dan, or manager, but I'm looking at this back line in Newcastle, and Lloyd Kelly, for me, will be a centre-half. Kraft can play right back, and Livramento, we know, can play as a left back, but it's not the way that Eddie Howe has set this back line up, which really surprises me. And they're going to have to defend, there's no doubt about that. It's going to be difficult for any of those 4 players to get over the halfway line with the remaining minutes of this game. Well, that surprises me a little.
Ball up to Isak inside his own half. Rolls away from Harwood Bellis, and Bellis pulled him back. Yellow card, very easy yellow card for Craig Pawson. And Isak was frustrated at not being allowed to run clear because he's been starved of service, the Swedish striker, all afternoon. Rare chance for him to roll his defender, get away, and he's pulled back, and it's a yellow card for Harwood Bellis.
It's just those little glimpses, isn't it, from Isak. Great little ability, knows that Harwood Bellis is coming in, homing down on him. The little flick around the corner, try to just glide past him. And Harwood Bellis as a defender, you're thinking, well, you're not getting away from me, mate. I'll just have a little tug on your shirt, see if I can get away with it, but not on this occasion.
Watford 3, Stoke 0. Edo Kayembe, that's his second of the afternoon. Watford edging towards all 3 points at Vicarage Road. Here at St James's Park, Newcastle are really edging towards 3 points. Southampton have rung the changes, and a yellow card for
Dan Burn.
For Dan Burn, for stopping the free kick being taken.
Yeah, and threw the ball at Flynn Downs when he didn't have to do it. And Craig Pawson's probably come out this afternoon hoping for an easy afternoon. It's been far from that, hasn't it, for the referee?
Morecambe 0, Gillingham 1 in League 2. George Lapsley giving the Gills the lead. Here is Taylor Harwood Bellis, the England under-21 captain of Southampton. Ball hit downfield, too long, too straight, too easy for Nick Pope, who just waits for Adam Armstrong to get within 2 foot of him and then picks the ball up. Newcastle 1, Southampton 0. If you're just tuning in to TalkSport 2, for the latest odds, head to William Hill, the official betting partner of TalkSport 2's Premier League coverage, where right now you can get Newcastle 11-20 to hold on for the win. Southampton to turn it around and win in 90 minutes 7-1. The draw priced at 23-10. That's all thanks to William Hill, 18 plus. And remember, begambleaware.org is the website you can refer to at any time for helps and tips.
Just noticed this dance. Young Tyler Dibblings just came onto the pitch here over on the right hand side. Has he got shin pads on?
No,
because
his socks are rolled down even further than Jack Grealish's or Steve Claridge's would be, going back in the day, if I'm going to come for a reference from when I was watching football as a youngster. Yeah, no shin pads, or if they are, they're the size of actual 10-pence pieces.
I'm surprised he's got away with that, I really am.
Well, yeah, he's certainly got him well rolled down, the youngster, unless he's showing off the tan on his legs. Millwall have been pegged back. It's 3-3 at Ashton Gate. Fally Mayulu, who scored on opening day for Bristol City's equalised 3-3, and Norwich are in front against Blackburn. They were a goal down, but Bortha Saints makes it Norwich 2, Blackburn 1 in the Championship. Could be 3 points for Johannes Torup, the new Norwich manager. 3 points for Newcastle in a minute, but here comes Southampton with the aforementioned Tyler Dibbling. Rolls it back to Harwood Bellis, just outside the Newcastle penalty area. Back for Bednarek, across to the inside left channel, and Jack Stevens looking for Armstrong at the edge of the area. Newcastle win possession back, looking for Isak, but Bednarek just over the halfway line, gets in front of Isak and nods it out of play. Throw in to Newcastle in the right back position. We've now got 14 minutes to go, and it's still Newcastle hanging on to this 1-goal lead, but 10 men on the field after Scher's first half red card.
It's not so much hanging on anymore, though, Danter, is it? I mean,
No.
it's the quality of the Southampton in the final third, which has been really poor. They come out in the second half, they had 2 or 3 great opportunities, I have to say, to get themselves back on level terms, but other than that, you know, I'm scratching my head, I'm thinking, right, when have they broke Newcastle down? When have they got themselves into a good area? Build-up play's fantastic, but in the final third, I think they've looked like a championship team, a side that are going to really struggle to score goals in the Premier League.
Well, that's the narrative that people were expecting of Southampton this year. They've got 13 minutes to do something about this scoreline. Edozie, left-hand corner of the area for the Saints. Can't get the cross in. Works it back instead to Bednarek, centre of the Newcastle half. Plays it to his right for Carl Walker-Peters. Shuffling towards the edge of the area. Gets the ball on his right. Shots deflected. Comes out to Downs. Tees up Armstrong. Just wide with the right-footed effort. And it's deflected for a corner kick to Southampton at the Gallagher end. 1-0 Newcastle.
Well, the opportunities have fallen to the right player in Adam Armstrong. I'd make that his third big opportunity. Slight deflection. But again, it's Southampton. The build-up play is very good, but then the first initial shot comes in, a little deflection. It's not good play, but Armstrong got to hit the target.
Latest corner for Southampton, whipped in by Smallbone, headed up in the air by Bednarek. Dibbling's chasing after it and gets possession, level with the edge of the area, right-hand side. Rolls it in field to Walker-Peters. Not a good shuffling run from the Southampton fullback. Gets to the byline, checks his run. Left-footed ball clips into the near post, well defended by Longstaff. Comes out to Dibbling, edge of the area, trying to shift it onto his left. Played across by Harwood Bellis, intercepted by Harvey Barnes. And here come Newcastle on the counter-attack, but it's only Barnes and Isak on this counter-attack. Everybody else has stayed back in black and white. Barnes trying to get inside. Flynn Downs goes down. No foul. We play on.
Just ran out of ideas, didn't he? Harvey Barnes, he was trying to play in Isak, but the run he made meant he was hiding behind a couple of Southampton defenders, and he just needed to use his raw pace, but he just couldn't sort his feet out quick enough in his brain, and eventually came to nothing.
Adam Armstrong for Southampton, down the left-hand side for the lively Edozie, gives it back to Armstrong at the dead ball line, but he passes the ball straight out of play, and Bruno Guimaraes celebrates that clearance like it was a goal for Newcastle. It's still 1-0 to the home side, but here's Taylor Harwood-Bellis for Southampton, just outside the area, lofts the ball into the box. Dan Burn gets his head on it, goes behind for another corner to Southampton. Billy Bowden puts Burton in front at Mansfield. Mansfield 2, Burton 3. Colchester lead MK Dons 1-0. Arthur Reed for the U's. Northampton are in front against Exeter. Cameron McGeer makes it 2-1, and Matty Taylor equalises for Cheltenham at Grimsby. That's 2-2. You're up to date with goals elsewhere. Just over 10 minutes to go on Talksport 2. Newcastle 1-0 up. Another corner for Southampton, sent in by Smallbone. Joe Linton can't get the header fully clear. Hooked away by Guimaraes. He thought he was being fouled by Downs, who's now got it back. He plays a diagonal ball back into the box, looking for Harwood-Bellis, but that's too straight and goes out of play on the full. And there's going to be another double change for Southampton as Russell Martin tries. One last throw of the dice, Mickey Gray, to bring on Charlie Alcaraz and also Sam Amayor.
Well, they're going to have to, isn't it? You know, do they want to come away from St James's Park with something in the bag after the first game in the Premier League? He's thrown in Alcaraz, that we talked about, Dan, so I wasn't quite sure he was actually going to be at this club at the beginning of the season. Well, he is, and he's on the pitch now. And Amayor gets an opportunity. And it's absolutely fantastic. But all these forward players that Southampton put on, they've got to show better quality in the final minutes of this game, and certainly in the final third of the pitch, because they've not caused Newcastle enough problems in the second half, and that's down to the way that Newcastle have set themselves up. I have to say that Dan Burn being outstanding, Joe Linton, every blade of grass, he's been absolutely everywhere in attack and defence, and Eddie Howe must be just thinking, just please let me get to the final whistle with 3 points.
10 minutes to go. Amayor and Alcaraz are on. Bednarek has gone off, as well as Walker-Peters. So 2 defenders going off, 2 midfielders coming on. As Harvey Barnes tried to latch onto a through ball, but it was just overhit. Elsewhere, Swansea 3-0 up on Preston. Zan Vipotnik, what a great name, put Swansea 3-0 up at the Swansea.com stadium. And Birmingham look to have wrapped up the points at Adams Park. Wycombe 1, Birmingham 3. Willemson, another great name. I think I'll definitely give Joe Shannon a call on the way home now. Whether he'll pick up is another matter. Don't forget, Magic Weekend coming up live here on Talksport 2 after this commentary. We'll be off to Ellen Road. As in comes the cross from the left-hand side from Archer, trying to find Adam Armstrong. Only half cleared by Newcastle. 9 minutes to go. Southampton still trying to find this equaliser with the man advantage. Edozie, who's seen a lot of the ball down that left-hand side, through the legs of Livramento, but it's cleared away by Kraft. But nobody in black and white stripes on the halfway line. They're all defending their own third of the field here in Newcastle. So Flynn Downs has plenty of time in front of the centre circle to size up his options. Plays it left to Stevens. Downs playing as a centre-half, really, in between Harwood-Bellis and Stevens. Now Edozie again, jinking down the left-hand side of the box. Brilliant run. Has he won a corner? Yes, he has. Yet another corner. They've won about 300 in this second half, but they've not made any of them count, Southampton. They still trail 1-0.
Been a good battle, that, hasn't it? Certainly in the second half, since Sam Edozie came onto the pitch along with Livramento.
And they're taking it short again. Smallbone, a bit deeper this time, plays it back into the centre of the field. Flynn Downs takes the touch, gives it back to Smallbone. And now Edozie again up against Harvey Barnes, strives for the byline. Good defending, Harvey Barnes. Got his body between man and ball. Great defending from the Newcastle substitute. Appreciated by the Gallagher. We've got 8 minutes to go. 1-0. 10-man Newcastle are hanging on for all 3 points here.
Well, can they hang on? And I think Eddie Howe will be saying to his players now, albeit it's the first game of the season, look, you've got to dig deep, lads. You've just got to try and fight your way to that full-time whistle. You've got yourselves a goal in front, a surprise to quite a lot of people in this stadium, I'm sure. But Southampton have to show something more in that final third. A little bit of quality. Adam Armstrong, is it going to come from him? Is it going to come from one of the substitutes? We talked about Edozie. But everything else apart from the game has been fantastic, other than the final third.
Well, there's a break in play because Nick Pope's just getting some treatment. Only just returned to the Newcastle starting lineup right at the end of last season when they played against Brentford. He was out with injury in January, and he's just getting some treatment. Hopefully that's nothing too serious for the England stopper. So all the other players, bar 1 or 2, have come to this near touchline to take on fluid. Don't forget, you have a choice of listening, of course, as always, between Talksport and Talksport 2. You've got the app downloaded. You can have Magic Weekend right here on Talksport 2 with Wigan St Helens and then Warrington Leeds coming straight after this commentary. Back-to-back commentaries from Ellen Road on Magic Weekend. But over on Talksport at 5:30, after Adrian Durham has given you a full classified check, the phone line's open for the game day phone-in with Jason Cundy alongside Jamie O'Hara for the season, poking each other with sticks right the way throughout the campaign, no doubt. You can get your calls in on 03717 223344. Bristol City back in front against Millwall. What a topsy-turvy game at Ashton Gate. Millwall were 3-2 up. It's now 4-3 to Bristol City. Scott Twine back underway here at St James's Park. Ball work back to Alex McCarthy, who does clear first time of asking, which if he'd done that in the first half, Newcastle wouldn't have scored. Lob forward by Longstaff, looking for Isak, but Southampton deal with it well enough, and then a foul by Joe Linton on Tyler Dibbling. Crawley take a late lead at Cambridge, who haven't won yet this season for Gary Monk. Adeyemo puts Crawley in front. They've got a cup tie against Brighton nearby. Brighton to come in the second round of the Carabao. Bet they're looking forward to that. Going to the Amex. Poor touch from Cameron Archer. Looking to send the ball out left for Edozie. Goes straight out of play, and Southampton are running out of time here. Less than 5 minutes to play, and they desperately need that cutting edge that you talked about, Mickey Gray, more than ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, 77% possession, over 515 passes, 89% possession, 11 corners, 14 shots, 3 on target. It's not a good return, Danter, is it? When you think, you know, on the eye, they look fantastic, Southampton. Nobody really panics in possession. But it's all about that final third. You know, managers have said in the past, you're as good as your strikers because they're the ones who win football matches for you.
Dibbling out to the right-hand side. Amour having a run into the area, trying to get past his man Lloyd Kelly. Pinball around the penalty spot. Desperate clearance from Guimaraes, but, well, it did the job. It got all the way up to halfway before it's retrieved by Downs. 4 minutes to go. 1-0 Newcastle. Southampton have it again. It's with Taylor Harwood-Bellis, midway point of the Newcastle half. To his immediate right is Tyler Dibbling. Amour holding in the right wing, picks it up now. Faced up by Kelly. Jinks onto his left foot, deep cross to the far post. Heads go up, and it's a good save down low from Nick Pope to deny Alcaraz. He got up at the far post. The header was decent, but so was the save from Pope to hang on to it low down to his right. 1-0
good
to Newcastle.
Play. Good play from Southampton there, from the substitutes as well, from this right-hand side. And then Alcaraz, when he gets his head on that, is there enough pace on the cross? I'm just wondering whether he has to kind of leverage a little bit too much. He does it right, he keeps it low, but he tries to head it down into the bottom corner and hasn't quite got enough pace on it to get past Nick Pope, who did have a problem with his calf a moment ago.
Here comes Southampton again. 3 minutes to go. Still trying to find the equaliser. Amour again, right-hand corner of the penalty area. Got Kelly backpedaling, steps inside, poor touch, and that allows Isak to bring the ball away for Newcastle United. Barnes trying to stay up with him. Isak runs into the Southampton half, tried the slide rule pass to pick up Barnes, intercepted by Downs. Brighton 3-0 up at Everton. Simon Adingra gets the third for Brighton. What start for their new manager, Huertzler. And elsewhere, Blackpool 0, Stockport 2 in League One. Jayden Febvrier for the Hatters. Southampton have it, left-hand corner of the area with Charlie Alcaraz. Infield it goes to Stevens, across to Harwood-Bellis. Harwood-Bellis up to the edge of the area, not being closed down, rolls it right to Amour, again faced up by Kelly. Feints to cross with his left, gives it back to Harwood-Bellis. The cross is deflected behind for a corner by Dan Burn. 2 minutes to go. Equaliser for QPR at Sheffield United in the Championship. 2-2. Sam Vokes gets a goal back for Wickham. Wickham 2, Birmingham 3. As they enter stoppage time. And we're nearing stoppage time here. Southampton desperate to make the man advantage tell. They've had it for an hour, but it's still 1-0 to Newcastle. Alcaraz into Smallbone in the centre of the half. Plays it to his right for Dibbling, right-hand corner of the area. Takes it onto his left. The cross is headed away comfortably by Kelly. Comes back out to this near side. Was that a push on Amour? It was, says the assistant on this near side. Free kick to Southampton, who will surely load the box as we enter the last minute of the 90. 1-0 Newcastle.
Well, Harvey Barnes in that situation, he's just got to stay on his feet. A little shove in Amour's back, and it gives Smallbone or Amour an opportunity to get that ball into the 18-yard area. This is where they've got to count. You know, they're running out of, well, not minutes, seconds now to get something from this game, and they need that bit of quality.
Two players standing over this free kick, right-hand side near the corner of the penalty area. Smallbone and Amour are the two players over it. It is Smallbone to deliver it. Up go the heads, flicked away by Kelly. Comes out to the edge of the box, driven goalwards by Archer, but got right underneath it. And there were two players on the deck on the 6-yard line. One of them Harwood-Bellis, and there's a Newcastle player down as well who was caught. I think it's Kraft, who may well need some treatment for a head injury. But as we tick round towards added time, Newcastle are edging towards 3 points. Blackburn are about to get a point at Norwich. Looks like they've equalised late on. Yuki Ohashi, who scored in the opener against Derby. Lovely little dink, and he scored again to make it 2-2 at Carrow Road. Plymouth and Hull have drawn 1-1. We're into 5 minutes of minimum stoppage time at St James's Park, which has started now. Burnley 4, Cardiff 0. What a start for Scott Parker after playing really well against Luton on Monday. Zeki Amdouni has the 4th for the Clarets against Cardiff, who look like they're getting the worst possible start to their championship season. No wins and no goals. Free kick hit downfield by Pope. And Russell Martin caught it, just keeping it away from Joe Linton, who's trying to catch it himself on this near touch line. So what have Southampton got left in these added minutes? Russell Martin looks on, down on his haunches, Villas-Boas style, as Edozie moves down the left-hand side for the Saints. Left-hand corner of the area, now running infield. He's caught at the edge of the box by Bruno Guimaraes. Free kick to Southampton in a dangerous area for the Saints at the Gallowgate end, as Brighton go 4-0 up at Everton. And it's Yassine Ayari. And of course Everton down to 10. Ashley Young was sent off in the second half, so they've really taken advantage of the man advantage there. Newcastle have weathered the storm despite being a man light here, but it's a very important free kick here for Southampton, Mickey Gray.
Well, probably still wishing that they had James Ward-Prowse in this position, Dan, but there's 2 or 3 Southampton players stood over the ball, Smallbone being one of them. Tyler Archer, I think, is over there. And they've also got Adam Armstrong. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do, but they have to just try and test Nick Pope. Do not give one of those silly free kicks like they did in the first half. Test the goalkeeper and see what he's made of.
Pope waits just in front of his goal line. Smallbone and Dibbling are the players standing over the free kick. It favours the right foot of Smallbone as it's to the left of centre. Craig Pawson just delaying the taking of this free kick. Wants a word with the wall. It's back far enough. I don't know what his issue is. Colchester 2, MK Dons 0, Jack Payne with a second. That Brighton 4th was disallowed. Arsenal have beaten Wolves in the Premier League 2-0. Free kick to Southampton. Smallbone takes it, hits the wall, hits Joe Linton specifically. It comes out and Downs retrieves it. And Eddie Howe telling his Newcastle players to get out and move upfield. Edozie works it back to Downs again. 2.5 minutes of added time have gone. Still 1-0 Newcastle. Amo Amior from this right-hand side plays it infield to Downs. Now Dibbling rolls it left to Smallbone. Alcaraz out there with him, left-hand side. Plays a cross into the box and it drifts out to the right-hand side of the area. Amo Amior faced up by Kelly. Lays it back to Stevens. Clipped to the far post, headed out by Joe Linton. Where's that going to drop? Brilliant clearance by Isak. Guimaraes is after it. Well, that's well defended by Edozie, is it? No, he's fouled him. He's caught Bruno Guimaraes and gets a yellow card for his trouble, Samuel Edozie. And Newcastle will be delighted with that, giving them a free kick in the centre circle with 90 seconds to play. The 10 men of Newcastle still lead 1-0.
Not sure about that for a free kick, Dance. I don't think Guimaraes had the pace to get away from Edozie. It was good defending, I have to say, but Craig Pawson's pulled it back and given Edozie a yellow card. And I think you can sense the frustration from Russell Martin. His hands are on his head with the 4th official asking the question, why is that a yellow card and why is that a foul? But he's frustrated. I've seen him in the technical area. God only knows how many yellow cards he's going to pick up in that technical area this season. He just never stands still, or he's never quiet. But
he gets his steps in, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I mean, to the football side of things, that this is a smash and grab from Newcastle, no doubt about it. But I have to say, Southampton in that final third, really, really poor.
Burnley 5, Cardiff 0 late on. Johan Gudmundsson and Bournemouth have equalised, it seems. And Nottingham Forest had a goal that was ruled out by VAR, but has Antoine Semenyo got an equaliser at the City Ground? 1-1 there. Free kick is poor from Newcastle, and Southampton have got 30 seconds left of the minimum 5 to find an equaliser, but the ball forward from Smallbone's intercepted. Guimaraes on halfway. being closed down by Alcaraz, fouls him, and that's a free kick, and Newcastle will take their time over this free kick on halfway. Surely that's enough to see the 10 men home.
Well, they're not going to rush this free kick. Again, I thought it was a really soft foul. Yes, there was a nudge in his back, but he's looking for it, Guimaraes. His experience that he's got as a midfield player, they love him here, singing his name at the moment, but they're not going to rush taking this free kick at all.
Mansfield 3, Burton 3. Mansfield get a late equaliser at the one call. Newcastle still leading here. We played the 5 minutes of minimum stoppage time. It's now down to Craig Pawson how much more we play on. Ball's back at the edge of the Southampton penalty area. Smallbone finds Dibley. We play on Talksport 2. Still time left maybe for Southampton to create something. Dibbling fouled by Joe Linton, eating up a couple more seconds. Surely it's got to go big downfield from Southampton. Downs plays it out left, out to Alcaraz. Still playing. Newcastle still holding on, but here's Edozie, finds Alcaraz, works it back in field to Downs, into the area, brilliant interception from Joe Linton, but it comes out to Edozie, cross in, flicked on by Archer, straight into the grateful arms of Nick Pope, and that is cheered at the Gallagher end, louder than a goal would have been. Stays 1-0.
Well, it certainly was, because I think that these Newcastle players and the manager Eddie Howe, they know that was the final opportunity. It was going to come, and Archer just again didn't have the quality to pop that one into the back of the net.
They're getting ready to celebrate around St James's Park, save for those Southampton fans up in the away end. There goes the full-time whistle, and the 10 men of Newcastle United have prevailed. They had to play a man live for an hour against newly promoted Southampton, but Joe Linton's goal not long after the red card issued to Fabian Schär in that first half separates the sides, and Eddie Howe has won all 3 of his opening Premier League matches as Newcastle United manager. Newcastle haven't done that under a manager since the mid-1980s. It was nervy, it was far from pretty, but pretty effective. That said, Southampton had numerous corners and lacked the cutting edge that you sense they're going to need at this elite level to really hold their own. Questions for how much they supplement their squad before the end of the window. But Newcastle United have 3 precious points to kick off their campaign. The 10 men didn't matter in the end. They got over the line. Full-time score at St James's Park. Newcastle United 1, Southampton 0.
Wow, what a pulsating game with just 1 goal, but so much drama in it, Mickey Gray. And Southampton are going to be absolutely kicking themselves. But this is what Premier League pedigree brings you. The chance and the ability to be able to dig in and stick in an ugly game and get all 3 points as Newcastle have.
Well, what an opportunity for Southampton that they've let slip, Faye. I have to say that, because again in that first half they looked excellent, but it's just in that final third, well, we question, have they got the quality to see our Premier League quality? Well, from what I've just seen there for 90-95 minutes, no, they haven't. Adam Armstrong had a hatful of opportunities. Brereton Diaz should have put the ball in the back of the net. And Newcastle, they got that lifeline, didn't they, just before half-time, and they hung on to it in the second half. And I don't think Southampton asked enough questions in the second 45 minutes. I really don't. So, yes, I think there's got to be questions with the manager, the way he wants them to play up in the back. He has to take sole responsibility for Alex McCarthy giving that ball away, because any other goalkeeper just clears his lines. So it's down to him, not the player or not the goalkeeper. But great opportunity missed for the away side, but a huge 3 points for Newcastle.
Yeah, they would have had heads up for sure going in at half-time, goalless after that first half performance. I mean, they had their chances in the second half to punish Newcastle and the 10 men that they were playing with, but as you say, they just didn't do it. But from a Newcastle point of view, even with 10 players, they were just disjointed, maybe, I think is a good way of saying it. And although Alexander Isak set up that goal for Joe Linton at the end of the second half, he maybe didn't put in one of the best performances we've seen.
No, he wasn't really at the races, Faye, was he? I've got to be completely honest with you. And, you know, we built him up before the game because he's a player that, you know, you want to buy a ticket, you want to come and see him. He's just got something a little bit different. There was glimpses of it, little flicks around the corner and how clever he tries to be at times. But I think he'll come in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It does take time to get up to speed 100%. But you can see the signs from Newcastle. The work ethic was there for everybody to see, certainly in the second half, where they had to defend for their lives at times. Dan Burn, I thought, was outstanding. Lewis Hall at times giving sloppy balls away. That's something he's got to try and brush out of his game. Good test for Livramento over on that right hand side against the Dozy in the second half. But it's all about hanging on, and that's all they had to do. They were never going to get huge amounts of opportunities in the second 45 minutes. It was about hanging on to what they had. They got themselves that goal, and they've done that, which will please Eddie Howe, and also the clean sheet.
Yeah, really important, the clean sheet. Additionally, they go to his former side Bournemouth next Sunday at 2 o'clock, Newcastle, so they'll be hoping to build on this performance. Southampton, though, an opportunity perhaps, if you think on paper this is where the table's going to go early doors, play Nottingham Forest, who have just conceded a late goal to Bournemouth actually in their first game of the season, and Southampton will be at St Mary's for that match. Bit of confidence perhaps after this performance?
Well, Faye, look, it's not a time to panic, is it, for any side? But I do think when you look at teams who you think might be around you come the end of the season, where we probably think that Southampton and Nottingham Forest maybe are going to be, it's a big opportunity, isn't it, for both sides. Nottingham Forest have got themselves, or it looks like they're going to get themselves a point from their first day of the season, whereas Southampton are now thinking, right, you know, let's just get something on the board ourselves. You know, they've got them at home. The way that they play, they're going to frustrate Nottingham Forest, but them being the away side, they can just sit in and try and soak up the pressure. A little bit like Newcastle have done today, to be honest with you. But I still think that final third is something that Russell Martin has got to look at, whether it's Armstrong, Burton, Diaz, or even the players that came off the bench with Archer, Adozi, who I thought looked really lively in that second half. He's the manager who's got to come up with the answers, but your goalkeeper giving the ball away, not down to him, that's all down to the manager.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll hear from Russell Martin throughout the day on the Talksport network and get his thoughts on that. Still playing at the City Ground, by the way, Nottingham Forest